my voice back, so I'm a very happy man.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh my god!
I heard you were getting your voice is pretty hoarse. I was like, hey, man, it's great that I'm here because I'll be able to talk while Prude can't.
Oh man, what is it? Just like a throat thing, or
Yeah, something like that.
oh man, oh well. Anyways, yeah. So we were talking about church halls, and you were saying you had like an art sale.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Sold a few pieces and stuff like that. I actually took your advice about the lino cuts, and I made a ton of them, and they sold pretty well. They were only like $5. This is like they didn't cost me anything to make, but I did some pretty good ones. I did I think you might have seen some of them. I posted them, like the Eye of Sauron and this dog I did a carving of, so they were pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So just actually getting into lino cuts because I just have a ton of them a ton of like the linoleum lying around. And I was like, I could do some carving. I haven't done it in a while, so it's actually pretty fun.
Oh yeah, I sometimes use little carpet strips too. Like that's what the German expressionists used to do. Like a certain, like if you had like those vinyl flooring, you'd just take the top coat off and then you sand it. Yeah, oh yeah, I've done some of that. Anyways, this is let's just wait. This is this Archipelago episode 1. What is it? 159? Yeah. So
you always have the odd numbered episodes.
That's right. Yeah. We're just waiting for people to pour in. And it's been, I don't know, man. It's been kind of, I don't want to say quiet in terms of what's been happening because
it's been quiet.
The strait's still closed. But like in terms of the news, but yeah, it's been a bit quiet. So we brought on Oz to come on and
resident fan artist, although to say that I think is sort of insulting, but like it is he is our strongest artistic soldier and we're very grateful for him.
Thank you, Prude. I mean, I don't mind fan art. I mean, I'm a fan and I'm an artist. It's like having girls and have their friends, so you have a girlfriend.
That somehow made it worse.
I saw this this post this like what could you call it? I guess like a popular backroom story is like the empty world story, you know?
They got like you're the only guy left.
Yeah. So I saw this one, I think it's called The Last on Tubi, where it's this New Zealand film of one day this guy wakes up and basically all of humanity's been raptured, but then he's like followed by this ghost or alien or whatever. And he's going crazy. Then he finds this woman, but then like then they find this guy that she knew, and so he gets cucked by Chad. And like it's a good film actually. It did build a lot of suspense.
Tubi really is the final frontier when it comes to
I get so many advertisements for Tubi, whether it's on Twitter or on like I have a TV now in my house, which like whatever. But even on when we're scrolling through all the various streaming services and things like that, it's like, oh wow, like they really want you to be on Tubi.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's partially because like you talk about stuff on all the time every week, and so that's what they pick up. I mean, you guys mentioned Tubi a lot, so or you guys probably like I talk to a lot of people
right?
all
It's
the time
just like I hope you like your
no, but
like,
you know what I mean.
Like your all these random movies that no one thinks about.
Some of them are gem-worlds. No, but you know when you say like girlfriend, she's a friend who happens to be a girl. It's like, oh my god. Anyways, So yeah, it's been kind of a slow news week. I mean, apart from like the slow burns of what's happening like geopolitically, the strait is still closed. I think the UAE, they had some kind of drone attacks. I don't honestly, like, it's sort of like a weird bungle space of what's actually happening or going to happen. And so I'm kind of not not 100% sure about anything. But what else has been happening recently, Prude?
I've seen a lot of conversations about aliens lately, so I don't know if there's going to be more quote unquote UAP disclosures. I don't know if that's moving on. I've been so busy between work and classes. Like I just have not had time to really peruse the news, and I don't give the news all that much attention because again, I don't know what is actually meaningful to discuss and or how much of this is going to be stuff that just blows over in like 5 minutes on the timeline, so to speak. And so it's very difficult, I think, to peruse what's going on. And so I don't have much to really report on, which is kind of nice. It's nice when we have an episode where like current events do not make up 90% of what we're talking about, which is rare, but it makes me a happy camper.
Yeah, that's good.
I've once, like, for Lent, I gave up going on Twitter, and I just haven't really picked it up other than just to post my art and stuff like that, and to maybe contact a few people who I know from Twitter. But I haven't been like, I don't know, maybe it's because I've been so busy with my new job that I haven't seen anything about like any big changes in the news or anything, and
well,
I'm not really that
congratulations on your
one
new
person to
job.
pay attention. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm still training, and I have to do like a lot of tests, and like if I have to score a certain amount, or else I have to like maybe get reassigned or some sort of thing where like I could lose it if I score really badly. But so far, very successful first few waves of training, and I think I'm gonna be making it through. We just need to keep going through, I guess.
Man, well, saying you're going to get reassigned as a punishment has a totally different context in the year of our Lord 2026.
Oh my
no.
God.
You're falling behind your numbers, and so now we're gonna have to make you a woman, so at least you'll be useful on our diversity dividend. Sorry, bro.
You could just
like, sorry, Chud. It's nothing personal. It's just business.
Well, there's the word actually I've been looking for. This whole debate that I've been having on and off with Geo on Discord. I guess that's the main factor. What is a chud? Because the main point of the whole argument, that the reason why I'm talking to you now is because someone said they hate chuds making art, and now
you didn't say it. You didn't say that.
I know what he said.
First of all, I have to set up. I have some important news. Okay, number one, important shilling. Actually, no. The most important news is I can't believe this happened, but sometimes, sometimes God chooses to smile upon you. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I think they had like 5% chance of this. They have been awarded in the lottery the first overall pick. Gavin McKenna is coming to Toronto. Incredible. Wow. I couldn't believe it. I was so
congratulations, Gio.
Did the NHL have the draft as well?
No, the draft happens in June, but this is like you're assigning the pick to the draft. So
okay.
Yeah. So I was devastated. They picked that Cheka guy who was banned from the league for so many years as the new GM. They ran out of Arizona. But so things are looking up. Anyways, so Owen mentioned the Discord, which I really should mention, but if you're a Patreon of either Substack, of Patreon or Substack, then you can just DM me and I'll give you a link to the Discord. Eventually I want enough people active in there to where we do like reading group, article reading, stuff like that. So hopefully I can grow the Discord. I know that you guys wanted it for so long, but and thirdly, third piece of news, apparently Entropy is no more, unfortunately. So they gave all of us this new, the news about shutting down operations. So I have on the I have down below and also on the pin comment my Buy Me a Coffee and also my PayPal. And so I would prefer if you send supers through there. Just let me know so I can quickly check. Or I think I got a message on my phone.
You'll get an email notification.
Yeah. But I have the pages up. So anyways, that's all fine and good. So yeah, unfortunately I know it was, well, I don't want to mention what happened with Entropy about a certain state-sponsored news
wanted it over.
Yeah, a certain state-sponsored news, state-funded news organization did this turbo hit piece on Entropy. So the couple that runs it. So, anyways, that's sorted out all the business. So, introduce before we get to the article of the day, which is very good, which is by Twitter mutual of ours about symbolism, politics, political art on the left and right, and I think gives a very nuanced take on the writings of Clement Greenberg as well, who we've covered on the show before. But it's a very interesting article, and I think I was reading it. I believe it came out either early this year or early this year.
It was earlier this year, I think.
Yeah, and it really harkened to a lot of stuff that I've written in the past, and also my forthcoming book as well. So, but before we get to that, I want to do this like huge debate, internet blood sports, but I think it's probably going to be more civil than, like a daily, what was it called? The morning kumite. So Owen,
well, I won't say what or who you are sexually attracted to, Gia, on like that one post that you told me we were arguing like on the Telegram. Unless you want to get that sweet drama bucks, get that attention.
What did I say?
You didn't say anything. It was I think it was an argument between like PPP and some other guy, and he was like, it was about wrestling, and he was basically saying how he likes oiled up Asian
the
men.
PPP and Cahool were like, they're arguing over like WWE versus New Japan. This was like years ago when New Japan was like really on the up and up, before AEW basically stole their thunder and all of their talent. And he's like, you're attracted to like Japanese, sweaty Japanese man.
No, it won't be like that, Gio.
So anyways, what was this? For those who don't know, this was part of, as much as I hate it because I think it's kind of nonsensical in a lot of ways, this whole like right-wing art debate that always pops up every like few months or so, or month or two. And this was a few weeks ago when it popped up again. And a mutual of mine from, he's probably, I don't know if he's listening to this, but actually, let me at him. I think I'm going to add him on Twitter. He's a mutual. He's a long-standing. I knew him before his current thing, and Revenant. Yeah, here we go.
We're going to be here for a while. Let me ask the guy so we can have drama.
We can have drama. So
I'm just a nobody. If I say something about him, he won't care. But
no, anyways, so he had this thread, and it was about the whole like right-wing art thing, and he said the problem is it's maybe it's better off if you are like someone of a sort of dissident persuasion, I believe he used the word chud, then maybe you should just focus on creating art and not really trying to in a sense create a vehicle for propaganda. But he had more.
Why don't we actually, this is a tweet, why don't we just read it out verbatim, because that might be
okay. You read it out verbatim. You read it out. Okay.
With the current state of the chuds, I would actually prefer for this not to happen. Overtly political and preachy art is what makes wokeness so infamously annoying and blew its cover, so to speak. I'd rather see chuds make subtle political or apolitical art. Now, this is in response to 2 posts. The first one is that he's directly responding to is, this wouldn't be a problem if there were more right-wing artists, but a lot of right-wingers in the West look down on art for some reason and then complain when Western media is dominated by the left. We need to get more chuds into art and indie game development. And then this is a response to a post by a person who is a VTuber saying, life of a right-wing VTuber, tries to commission artist. Artist says, I don't support your ideas, and drops you. Uses AI for art. People cry about you using AI and wishes death on you for not commissioning artists. That is not that is out of that full context. That's why I was so passionate about this. It's a very tone deaf way of looking at it, especially from the perspective of an artist who would identify as a chud and would maybe have some skin in the game if someone were to say want more right-wing art, or someone who would prefer to have more people on the right wing making art.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't disagree with a lot of your points. The problem is my disagreement comes fundamentally from something different from what you're arguing. And a lot of people don't define what right-wing art is, or they don't define what chuds are. Like when I asked you about this, you mentioned a post about a painting of Donald Trump, which is right-wing art in a sense, but it's also a boomer art. It's not a chud art.
It was a McNaughton painting, if I recall.
Yeah, and I don't think McNaughton is a chud, unless you want to go with a very broad definition of a chud is every right-wing person I don't like, or just a right-wing person in general, which I think kind of misses the point of what actually is a chud and what actually is the point of the art of this thread. And I don't want to put it out there too much, but one thing that I think, arguing with a lot of people about this, a lot of people were saying oh, you just need to make good art. And that's true, but any good art that is chud, that is directly made by a chud, or at least conferably could be called chud art, is something that is not subtle, that is not apolitical. It is something like $1 Million Extreme. It is something like Smiling Friends. It is something like the Will Stancil show. And there's tons of other examples I could give. And it's missing the point of the idea of, in order to make good art, it's not political, it's not unsubtle, and it is, and like I said, it's a tone deaf thing, because it's you're kicking down the ladder for people now that there's some ascendancy. You're now going oh, we need to stop them from spilling the spaghetti, because we spilled our spaghetti and that was fine, but now you guys can't. And that's why I think it's a millennial versus Zoomer thing entirely, because millennials had their fun and now they don't want the Zoomers to have their fun because they're afraid of
wait. Well, when did millennials ever have fun in human history?
I mean, $1 Million Extreme.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Okay, that's kind of, that's millennial. But no, but I mean, as a generation,
well, you can still be miserable. You can still be miserable and make art. So I mean, that's one thing.
No, but okay. I guess before we get ahead of ourselves, what do you mean by chud? Why is the people okay? I'm thinking of 2 artists that have captured the Fox News boomer imagination. Number 1, Paul Talk. No, I'm kidding. Not Paul Talk. Number 1. John McNaughton, right? The painter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've all seen the MLK one with a MAGA hat. You've all seen Trump crossing the Potomac with Christine Noam. You've all seen Trump painting America.
Is he the one who did the painting with all the Republican presidents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he did the one where the Forgotten Man, where it was Obama, Barry Soetoro, where he the soldier and Abe Lincoln and George Washington was pleading with him on the bench. Remember, for the guy that's the fallen common man, right? So, anyways, that's one. Number 2, Harold Sabine, the sculptor, which I do not like. Me and Fen both do not like. So those are two examples. Like that's very much like the I'm a Fox News normie con, but like I read a lot of history. I love who's that one historian, but he's kind of like calling out racing with Iran.
Victor Davis Hanson.
Victor Davis Hanson. Yeah, like I'm like Victor Davis Hanson fan. Like that's what I get when I look at a Howard Sabine sculpture. Right?
But is that what you think when someone says chud art?
No. Okay, what do you mean? Like, first of all, explain how are you defining this thing called the chud right winger and your average,
it's about
like
a person who
conservative watching Fox News
is unapologetically right wing, who is angry or discontent at the state of the world and wants to use their skills or talents to create art, or to create, in some sense, create something that they think will allow for either them to express their dissatisfaction or to change the world through that.
I'm thinking this is a good content opportunity because we're going to really interrogate this. So, okay, a chud, for those who don't know, is an appropriation of a leftist term that came from that 50s or 60s movie, The Chuds, Reign of the Chuds, or whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically an
I thought it came from like an 80s slasher,
yeah, it was
movie.
80s. It was 80s. Yeah. It was an 80s monster movie. I thought it was a 60s monster movie. But
I just don't remember it ever being good.
No, it was
like,
total
it was like a Ghoulies ripoff or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Critters.
Yeah, it was like Critters. Yeah. So like these underground creatures, kind of like Morlocks, right?
Yeah.
But the chud, like the leftist uses the word chud as a term of derision, as you are like this subterranean troglodyte who is bereft of all culture, like the Muslim to Giorgio Agamben, right? You are someone who exists off of bare life. But then mostly the online right, basically did a Foucauldian reverse discourse by saying that the chud is actually a term of endearment. Like, yeah, I am a chud. I have all the accoutrements of like, I grew up watching MDE, and I'm listening to, I'm watching the hockey game while I'm listening to, Somewhere I Belong by Linkin Park. And I grew up
Gio describing a chud, and it's just his childhood.
Yeah. Well, I'm watching deathmatch wrestling music videos that have Somewhere I Belong as the music video song. But so, in other words, like a chud is the younger variant of more aggressive, overt right winger that has like all of the accoutrements of like, I'm not going to say what type of Twitter handle name they're going to have for YouTube, but you know what I mean. But how would you describe a chud?
Well, I mean, you're describing a chud pretty well, in a sense of it is someone who is facing the destruction of their culture, their people, their race,
their economic chance. Yeah,
everything is not going well for them. The younger millennial to the Zoomer are very chuddish, though it's more of an attitude, a way of life than like a physical hallmark. But it's the person who has a large presence online, who finds community online, maybe, and they are young, and or they're characterized as wanting to do new things, or they're not satisfied with the old order. So the charge of the boomer art doesn't work, because a chud would look at like the slavish boomer worshiping Donald Trump or even George Washington or Abraham Lincoln as like them being a slave to the old order, and they want to destroy that if that means they can make something new.
Well, I don't know. A lot of chuds do worship Trump, though. I mean, isn't that been like the Truster message?
Is art? This is the fundamental part.
There you go. Chuds have to be reactionary. That's a good.
They have they say billions must die, and and some of them are supporters
in
of Trump.
Minecraft.
Yes,
I was about to say,
in
how many
Minecraft.
actually mean that?
Yes, but like that's the attitude that is supersedes like a lot of chuds.
Sure.
Like they have like a sort of, we need to have the system completely change because it's not working now, or it's only favoring the black people, or it's only favoring the people with the silly hats.
An explicitly racial grievance. Yeah.
No, but also,
and so they may support Trump, and they may call you a panikin, or they may call themselves plan trusters, but that's because it's not a singular political movement. It's a broad idea that can be a broad attitude that can be disseminated throughout multiple political movements.
So that's like chud on chud violence, though, the panikin versus planikin type of.
Yeah,
I feel
basically.
so stupid even saying these words.
Like, but this gets to another point that this whole conversation is kind of about.
Community.
Yeah, where we have so many terms for so many things that when I say I support chud artists and you say no, don't support chud artists, we are talking about two completely different things.
No, I'm not saying don't support.
Well, I'm not saying you are, but like Revenant's saying chud artists aren't going to make good art. Is that what he's not saying? He's saying the current crop of chuds shouldn't make art, or should make subtle art, which again is a nebulous term.
Okay, I think what he means is that, how should I say this? He's not against the idea of people who are on the
Oz, did you ever DM him? I'm just curious.
I haven't DM'd him. I responded to him on like retweeted him with a response, and stuff like that, but I haven't spoke to him directly. And his responses have not been satisfactory from what I've seen from other people.
Hey, read some of those responses then. Because I think what he means is, it's not that he's against the idea of people on the political right doing the work of art. It's just that when you have an immediate framework of this piece of art is going to be instrumentalized, then the actual purposefulness, I'm on the fence with this because just today I was rereading this book was it by Berger, or who was it by? It wasn't by Berger, it was by somebody else, but it was mentioning, I think it actually was by someone mentioning Berger, but yeah, Peter Berger, there you go. Yeah, Theory of the Avant-Garde, translated by Michael Shaw. And they were talking about the Kantian distinction between aesthetic judgment having a form of objectivity because it appeals to practical reason, how we think about applying applying the deontological law, and how practical reason intersects with aesthetic judgment or aesthetic critique, but it has to be a form of disinterestedness, right? There has to be something that is universalizable within an aesthetic judgment that isn't appealing to an appetitive drive. So what Peter Berger was saying is that when you look at the history of the avant-garde, especially from like the later 19th century all the way to the interwar period with Dadaism, all the way up till the 60s with pop art, you have this chain where they're kind of going against that thesis and wanting to bring the work of art into everyday life, or wanting to have it engage with the realities of life around them. And they were directly responding to the critique by Herbert Marcuse, who wrote this essay on the work of art, saying that, like, you know, it's just a palliative, and I'm butchering it. It's quite an interesting essay, even though I disagree with it. You know, it's a palliative, and like it's, you know, giving you a sort of like simulation of a better life, but really it's distracting you, or it's preventing action on the question of class consciousness, you know, because like, of course, Herbert Marcuse, Frankfurt School, you know, Marxism, whatever, he's saying like the work of art. And so he's going directly against, by the way, another Frankfurt School person, Adorno, who says the complete opposite. He's like saying that the work of art distracts you, man, and it gives you an idea of perfect life. And so it's always been the job of the avant-garde, according to Berger, to sort of like take the work of art and equip it with a way of doing this like culture jamming thing that, again, this is a very long and complicated book and I'm butchering it, but it's a way of like doing this culture jamming thing where the work of art has a say in the social apparatus and the greater gestalt around them conceptually or around the work of art. And so I think what you're saying is that like you want an art that does engage with political realities, but I think what Reverend is saying is that if you do that, you risk the longevity or the sort of aesthetic merit to the work of art, because it no longer becomes a work of art per se, but it becomes like any like Pepe versus Wojak meme or any sort of aesthetic object that you find in, say, sloganeering and protesting, and its aesthetic functions is more closer to illustration rather than just making a piece of meaningful art for the sake of it. I think that's his whole point. But then you're saying like he's pouring the scorn on these, like, how dare you?
I don't disagree with what you said, Gio. I don't think that. Right. I think that the problem is. I'm just gonna say, what you're saying is fine. I don't think that's what he was saying, but that's beside the point. My main point I'm trying to make is I don't believe that I want people to make things just for the sake of right-wing art, but the critique of him and to a lesser extent you is completely theoretical. It's assuming that that's what's going to happen when someone says we need more chuds to make art, or I think chuds should get more into art, or we need leftists out of art and more right-wingers in it. Like those things, while you can apply those meanings to them of they're going to replace the art with sloganeering and all this, that's a worry. But it strikes me as the same idea of the people who said supporting Roe v. Wade is going to cause Kamala to get elected. There are people who have this idea things are going to happen. Revenant mentions this when he says the woke is going to be a backlash. They played their cards too early, and all the normies struck out against them. Where it's like, okay, we've had $1 Million Extreme, we've had Smiling Friends, we've had the Will Stancil Show, and all these other popular pieces of right-wing art. And no one, didn't get a blue wave. No people became less turned off to it. And if someone's gonna be making art that isn't dominated by left-wing ideas, those things are gonna appear, however subtle or unsubtle. Smart normies versus dumb normies, it doesn't matter. Those people are gonna see it one way or another, whether the leftists who are in their area telling them how bad this and right-wing this art is, even if the artist is super subtle, or the artist is as subtle as $1 Million Extreme, and people still like it because it's funny and it's good, regardless of if it's apolitical or not. And these kinds of worries are just theoretical, and they're just saying you're letting a shadow scare you of a small molehill, and you're not letting, like, you're worried about that when nothing has happened yet, and your attitude makes people not do anything. So you're basically creating a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Charlie X Murdoch presidency fan art is right winger. Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, that's Gabe. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, I'm just gonna say you paid me $100 for it, Gabe. I know you paid me $100 for it. I'm very grateful for that, but I'm not gonna subject Prude to it. So sorry, Gabe.
Okay.
I don't even want to know.
As long as it's not like that one anime.
It's not fetishistic. I made it very wholesome, but I don't want to just expose you to it without proper warning.
I don't know. I kind of like, I don't know. I get pigeonholed as like someone who advocates for this thing called right winger, but I'm kind of like almost being seduced by the argument of Paul Talk. Like, can't you just make good paintings? Can't you just make good shows? Does it have to have a social movement attached to it?
Well, but that's I don't disagree with Paul Talk.
But isn't
that
the same objection, however, that people would make to leftists making art?
Right. Yeah. True. No, yeah. But here's the thing, though. I think I don't go as far as Paul Talk. I don't think that there's no place for it. I mean, obviously, there is. The leftists are kind of speaking a truth when they say anything can have a sort of mark of the political. Like, not that everything is inherently political, but everything can have the potential to be inherently political. And I don't disagree with art engaging with the sort of well of everyday life, obviously. But I think that when you take it to such a degree where you're, doing like, niche group chat arguments, but you're making an aestheticized animation of it. It's like, I don't know. I think some of that can come off as inauthentic. But let me read you a passage from this book by Berger called Theory of the Avant-Garde, which was very influential, I believe, back in the 70s, this book. Of the three areas, the intended purpose or function of the avant-garde, the avant-gardist manifestation is most difficult to define. In the aestheticist work of art, the disjoiner of the work and the praxis of life, characteristic of the status of art in bourgeois society, has become the work's essential content. It is only as a consequence of the fact that the work of art becomes its own end in the full meaning of the term. In aestheticism, the social functionlessness of art becomes manifest. This is like Paul Tolkien, right? The avant-gardist artist counters such functionlessness not by an art that would have consequences within the existing society, but rather by the principle of the sublation of art in the praxis of life. By such a conception makes it impossible to diffuse or define the intended purpose of the art. For an art that has been reintegrated into the praxis of life, not even the absence of a social purpose can be indicated, as was possible in aestheticism. When art and the praxis of life are one, when the praxis is aesthetic and the art is practical, art's purpose can no longer be discovered, because the existence of the two distinct spheres, art and the praxis of life, that is constituted of the concept of purposeness, purpose or intention, intended use and intention, has come to an end. Meaning that the main argument obviously can go either way, as open-ended, but what it's saying is that when you do have a work of art that is constantly engaging in social, political, and cultural discourse with the moment of the day, then it sinks into a place of indeterminacy. It no longer stands above as an art object, but rather as a series of aesthetic commentaries on the existing social reality. Whereas the avant-garde would say that we are engaging with the social reality, but we're going beyond it and prefiguring a new social reality until that avant-garde becomes the institution and they die of irrelevance, the way that, abstract expressionism and cubism took over Dadaism, right? Because Dada became the establishment, and then surrealism and cubism and abstract expressionism took that over because Dadaists were sort of like these weird, perverted, effete bourgeois people. Like there's this great, Fleur in Verse has a great translation on the history of Dada on his Substack, but I talked about in a recent podcast of Content Minded. But anyway, so you get my whole point, though, is that is it still art? Like, okay, is the Will Stoncil show still a piece of art, or is it just an elaborate troll? Now we have like the JD Vance show, which is even a better example, right? Is it still, is it a work of art in the sense of the aestheticism of the work of art, or is it just a vehicle of trolling and a social commentary? That's very well done, but nevertheless, right?
Yes. I could say, yes, it's not art in that sense. But I think in that sense, then it's like you critique the chuds for not making art. But then when someone who is ostensibly like making something that you find funny or enjoyable, you let it slide, or you're not going to have a panic attack about the possibility of a left winger or normies of getting thinking you're woke, or you're woke right wing because you made something like it, or you made something. And it strikes to more of the core, I think, of my argument, which is this whole point that's being made is on the back of someone saying that they can't find artists on the right wing who agree with them, who are willing to make art for them for whatever reason. And it's like, okay, if you're saying they're not making art, or you're saying that there's no right wing, this art isn't right wing, then you get to a point where it's like, well, aren't we like how is someone who wants to be right wing, who's right wing and wants to make art, or who has right wing ideas and they don't care if they're making right wing art, but they're just making art and they're afraid of it being too political, or that they aren't making good enough art. Like how, like it just strikes me as like you're just smothering the baby in the crib before they have a chance to even cry. You're not giving them an opportunity to try and make something, even if it's bad, even if it's egregious, even if it's like on the like a bit overt, and like you're just gonna say, I can't expect anything less from you, and you're heaping scorn on those people who are trying to do something, when someone like Revenant is just a guy on Twitter who talks about this stuff and doesn't put the money where his mouth is. So I like taking these critiques from Yu-Gi-Oh, because you're actually putting your art out there, you're actually making something. But
so we're just okay. I understand where you're coming from, but for the sake of, I'm not defending the guy or anything like that, but I mean, so you're on here to nuance a point, which totally fine, right? Like that's great and all. But like we're responding and arguing, and we're using Geo as a way to flesh out and shadow box ideas from someone you can't argue with at the present moment.
Yeah.
Or dialogue with.
Yes.
Which, if that's the case, fine. I just want to make that very clear from the get-go that that's basically what we're doing, is that we're fleshing out a position in order to box against someone that we're not responding to.
Is Geo and Revenant on the same position?
I don't think so.
Like
on a variety
Geo
of
understood
things.
his position, like was saying this is what his position was, and I want to know.
Well, it depends on the position. I think his instincts are correct, and so I would land more on the side of him in that exchange, and also on his other posting recently. But we're not going to get into that because I'm trying to honestly not as political post anymore as overtly as I once did. But I think in this point, his instincts are correct because, okay, I want to hear you out, and I understand Prude's point. He's not here to defend himself, but I think another point, not trying to put words in Reverend's mouth either, but I think another point when it comes to this idea of right-wing art. Now, I said on a Content Minded, I said that the idea of right-wing art is sort of like, bear with me, okay? This is going to sound crazy. It's sort of like in Mahayana Buddhism. What is Mahayana? It is the great raft. What is Dharma? Dharma is the small raft that gets you across the shore to nirvana, to non-attachment. So in Mahayana Buddhism, they have this metaphor called the raft is not the shore. Once you get to the shore, you leave the raft behind. Unless you're, and so again, because he did work on Buddhism, he did a whole documentary, he knew about it. Werner Herzog, what is the metaphor in Fitzcarraldo, right? The impossibility of moving the whole ship across the mountain, right? But when in reality, the lesson is a form of letting be. In other words, you leave the raft behind once the goal has been attained. So my problem with this distinction of right-wing art is that it is a temporary condition based on current social and cultural circumstances. And so I think when people talk about it this way, it's engaging with it in a form of like culture war discourse, but it doesn't see that there is a telos there. That in the future, there will be optimum social conditions to either default to like any idealized picture of like 90s liberalism where you get to have your say and like the blue hair Zize Zur gets their say, or you just have like a total right-wing society where, let a million Leni Riefenstahls bloom, right? So I think, but in either case, and I think the Substack class, they mean the more like 90s liberal, like we just want to have a say, we want to have a place in the art world, man. But for people talking about right-wing art, I think that always defaults back to let me have a say. But it's predicated on, okay, this is a temporary condition. But then the problem is if it's not a temporary condition, then how are you going to do the job of creating a sort of, I mean, albeit porous, but at least coherent picture of what this thing called right-wing art actually is? That's my critique. Unless it is just, like I suspect, a temporary condition that gets you over the hump into an optimal condition where people with beliefs against, you know, transnational progressivism can be well respected in the art world, in the world of cinema, and in so on and so forth, cultural creation. So I don't know, like, what do you think of that? And also, I think what he means is that you have to look at the greater social condition as to why the political left gained ascendancy in these creative endeavors and how they enforce this orthodoxy, and also how an institutionalization of the work of art is something that you can't just, like, kind of like democracy, right? You can't just like put it in a can and, like, you know, if you just ship it around the world and then everyone's gonna have it, everyone's gonna have Coca-Cola and Levi jeans and OF on the internet. It's like, I think the problem is, like, you can't just take baseness in a can and like ship it out to every existing institution the way it's configured nowadays and do the whole like mold buggy in. Well, you see, let's see, King CEO is just gonna like determine the art world, which I think was controversial because I think Moldbug had a hand in the American Pavilion and the Venice Biennale this year, something like that. But the point being is that, like, I think what he's saying is that you have to actually look at the conditions that create these ideological orthodoxies in various cultural institutions. And if you're trying to like reverse engineer it, there's always going to be a problem of application because of the pre-existing positions and beliefs of a, you know, leftist in the art world versus, like you were saying, like someone who's on the political right who happens to be an animator or an artist or a cinematographer. So I think like those are some of the things he was trying to get at.
I agree with the point that like things aren't going to work the same way the leftist does, but we're not going to be able to do what the left wings do. We aren't going to be able to do the long march to the institutions like the left did. That's not the way. That's way has already been trod, and the left is not going to be able to make that. Like we're not. The left have already barred us from using that option, at least for now. Maybe when the institutions get weaker, that's another story.
Well, that's a good point, Tukey. That's a good point, David. Avoid Will and Grace avant-gardism from the right. Will and Grace avant-gardism.
Yeah, like you're not going to be able to normalize. Well, and I mean, normalizing normalcy, which is, I think, a tall order in a lot of respects, right? Because like even like Will and Gracing yourself on the right, like you can't, you know.
Yeah, but I'm not as a pessimistic person that I think if I make something that, or if anyone makes art that is trying to do that, it's a bad move. Like if I, in a sense,
see, but like, I mean, this goes back to like
if I'm an independent artist,
the core point though is that like, so by is saying, well, this is a bad thing to do or a bad move, we're thinking in politics.
Well,
so now yes, the modus operandi is almost explicitly political instead of artistic.
Is the critique about, is this main critique about art or is it about politics? Is the art, is someone
what
saying,
do you want it to be?
I want it to be about art, and I want the idea, I want the people who say the art that we should keep an eye, that we shouldn't make something, that we should tell people not to make overtly political art or just make good art. I want them to kind of take a step back and look at who they're talking to, which are young artists who don't have institution, may not have the education, and are doing things with what they have. And rather than focus on saying what not to do, look at artists who are actually doing what they're doing and point those out and make give them the attention, and let everyone know who else is making art. This is the type of person who's making good art. This is what good art looks like. This is what, that isn't just like some version of conservative slop, I guess.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like someone said in the chat, I forget who said it, like, yeah, it's a testing ground, I guess you could say. But okay, you know, I think we can all agree that there's certain things that you should avoid though. Like, do you remember, I know this is a terrible example, and I'm probably gonna like re-traumatize people by bringing this up. Do you remember the Proud Boys music video?
No one does.
Vaguely.
It's the Proud Boy. Like, do you remember? Like, that was like the worst thing. Like that. Well, that and like federal prosecution basically like sunk the movement. Like it was over. It was over. Right. So
yeah,
I think like avoiding.
You could say the same about certain Disney parodies.
But then again, that kind of stuff, it's not remembered, and anyone who says that
it's kind of remembered.
Well, yeah,
it's remembered for a certain like historical purpose,
historical
point,
moment.
I suppose.
Yeah. There you go, Big Alaska. We love our cops, our law enforcement. Like, yeah.
Look, I'm just gonna say, I don't disagree, but
he actually didn't, because I think didn't he punch a cop or something like that?
I was in high school in 2016, and I was not on the internet until 2017. Really, like I didn't have any social media until I got out of high school. Until I got into high school, basically. So my online stuff wasn't really my forte, or I wasn't really aware of like the political stuff. Here. Yeah. So like, but when I see people like, but I think that's a part of it. Like, yeah, people remember it, but is it like something that's is it something that's actually like killing the right wing if some chud posts a anime edit with a spinning wheel in the background? I mean, I don't think so.
I don't think I'd call that art. I'd just call it a meme.
I would.
Okay.
I mean, it's a meme if it's a pre-existing anime girl.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
like, I think the edit.
But also, like, as a self-reflexive caveat, I am not an artist. My opinion is probably not worth its salt in this conversation. But at the same time, you know, I'm always going to be happier to pay to donate my time, or to even listen to someone give a talk on, you know, like if Fen is going to talk about sculpture, you know, or if Gio or, you know, Matthew the Stoat, or even you, right, like are going to give a discussion on, you know, artists or movements or things that I am explicitly not familiar with. I'm going to listen. But also at the same time, like when we have this discussion, which seems to be like a liturgical calendar in the right-wing book of discourse, you know, it's just, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. But to me, at the very least, it really just does seem like we do this quite often. And at the same time, like I think that we can categorize that, like, there's propaganda, there's art that serves political purposes or things like that. Like I wouldn't ever negate the talent or the skills of people like Fraser Payne or Panther Den or
Duke Telly,
Slonk, or people like that who have spent a good chunk of their time online creating things that are, you know, they're absolutely chud coded, and that they are very good at what they do. It's exactly the kind of thing I would expect them to do. And but at the same time, like it's propaganda. Like it serves a very explicit political purpose, and that's fine, as long as we're just upfront and saying that, like, yes, it is propaganda. Because I think that's really the straightforward thing that we're trying to have a conversation about, is the difference between, well, are we making things that are going to be like God's Not Dead, or are we going to be making things that are very much, you know, things that I would want to actually purchase? You know, like I bought a Geo painting. Well, really, my wife bought it because she's the one that picked it out. I just paid for it. But, you know, like it just kind of goes to show where things are politically. And it's just like, so we're all that we're really doing here is having a debate over, you know, well, okay, this is propagandistic. This is hand over fist, like really cringe or debatey versus like, hey, I'm making lino cuts of this. And like even some of that line gets blurred because like Alexander Adams is a really good example. Like he's really got some good lino cut prints of famous right-wing thinkers. He's got one of Carlyle, he's got one of Evola, he's got one of quite a few other people. And it's just like, well, that's kind of blurring the line, but like it is good. So I don't know. I think that once again it's a Justice Potter situation where I'm like, well, I think I know it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going, I guess I have been sort of going far afield many parts of this, and it's hard to get sort of focused because the subject we have a lot of different ground to cover, but it comes back with the idea of what exactly are is the political subsuming art, or are you trying to make something beyond the political with your art? But I think the point of the post and of this, like those fears are largely political based and not based off the idea of defending art or of making better art or of like the concept of art becoming better through like separating itself from the political. The critique is largely saying if we have people making art, there's a chance they can make something that will cause a backlash from people, and that will mean that we're going to get more political opponents activated because someone made something that was too political. Not because they're leftists who don't like right-wing stuff, but rather because the sentiments of the right wing are presented repulsively or in a certain way.
I would say like a vulgar display of it's very like one-dimensional.
On that note, the critiques already exist of there being too much sloppy art, there being too much bad art, and nothing's really come of it, like other than just the stagnation, which I guess is more of your critique from the artist perspective, but it's framed in political critique of being too preachy, being too political, being woke, right? Or being too woke, being like the woke. So I think if the critique's gonna be better, it should maybe point towards what you're saying, Gio, with people on the right should look for better artists, should enforce this idea of like making stuff for a truer, more transcendental purpose rather than for political gain. And maybe if that happens and then people just tacitly ignore, like how the left tacitly ignores its more spaghetti spilling side with like Steven Universe or the like, then I think it might be like that might be a good strategy to go for. If it would I think that would maybe satisfy both people who are more concerned with the state of art and people who are more satisfied with the state of culture, with the political side of things. But maybe we're too enmeshed for that to actually happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, the culture war part is something that is unavoidable, and it's not something that we're really gonna see ourselves, truly be rid of unless there is absolute total victory from one side, which fundamentally requires the absolute total destruction of either the left or the right. And I mean, like, you can argue, and I mean, there's like a lot of things that are explicitly political that are very much a product of coming from I'm going to make a story that's with a political message. A classic example of this is the Western film High Noon, made well known by a communist that was famous during the McCarthy era and kind of had to suffer the consequences of when, I think it was like Eisenhower, said it was like one of his favorite films. And it's just like kind of got chewed out from it. But I mean, also at the same time,
was watching before he died.
I don't know what film Stalin was watching before he died. Was that High Noon?
No, it was
no, something else.
Yeah, I think it was like Fool Tide that always used to make this point about like Stalin watched this like total like libtard type of film. Anyways, I go up. Sorry.
Well, and I mean, so like,
wasn't it something with like a dwarf or like some sort of freak show or something like that? Can't remember.
Yeah.
My point being is that like here in 2026, the popular culture has been completely subsumed into the one last thing that all Americans can bitch about, which is the culture war. This is the one thing we got going for us. This is the one thing that turns us all into boomers yelling at the TV. By that, we're also quote tweeting each other and complaining, etc., etc. And so, pardon my voice, like you're in a weird spot where on one hand, like, yeah, I would love to make good art. I would love to see more people making things like something like, you know, like more Monets and more Pietas and things like that. But also it's like, who the heck in this day and age is actually really going to appreciate it? Because so much of us have been orientalized in our form of communication that we really only communicate via memes. We think almost everything in terms of being explicitly political actors because we're either algorithmically captured and so on. And so like, yeah, like people who make really good art or people who I consider to be artists, you know, like their work should speak for themselves. And that does take time because it is difficult for you to have someone on board with your message. And
maybe I was being too emotional about this, but I know a lot of artists.
And you have a right to be emotional because you're a man who makes things. Like I am not a man who makes things. And when I do make things, it's under instruction of a teacher. But like, because I want to get better at it. I don't have an artistic bone in my body, despite, you know, some people calling me one. I'm not. But like, I say all these things because it's a conversation I kind of also have in my own daily life repeatedly on this, whether it's over religious art and things like that. And where do you blur the line between art and serving either like a liturgical or a religious devotional practice? And so I just think that all these things kind of get complicated and lumped in together because we have left ourselves at a point where, culturally speaking, the one thing we have sort of left as a populace is just the fact that all things are viewed through an explicitly political lens. And on one extent, you could argue that that is like the triumph of the left of our time. Because when you look at old TV shows, you can see these little moments of quote unquote subversion or bad takes or clearly progressive messaging, which is true. You can even see it in some of my favorite, like, quote unquote comfort shows. And it's just like, well, that's sort of the way that it is. And it's like, damn, this was like from the 80s. I can't believe it was that bad. And you're left in a really weird spot where then all of a sudden, the question of like, well, can we have art for art's sake? And it's like, that is a great question. But also, I don't know how many of my like enemies would ask that question because they know that all forms of, media is a way in which they can propagate a cultural hegemony. And the left clearly has that. And so I just think that it just becomes this debate just becomes, well, we should be promoting those that make good things. I'm all for that. And I have put my money where my mouth is. I've bought Matthew the Stoat's work before. I'm using you for work, and I've bought a painting from Geo. And so all these things I are said under the purpose and the auspices of when we have these conversations. I feel so often every 6 months these things repeat themselves because we're either speaking past each other, we're shadowboxing straw men, or we take it personal offense, and rightfully so, because there are plenty of people in this space that make good things. And I think that becomes a really difficult thing to navigate when we don't want to hurt each other's feelings, or we don't want to just walk into something that, we doesn't really cover the main subject. And so I'm trying to be diplomatic when I say, like, I totally understand your point, and I can see why you would get frustrated and upset. But when it comes to like the right-wing art conversation, I think that we just need to have much clearer delineations between people who are going to make, I think, very explicit propaganda that speaks to the times, i.e. Fraser Payne or whatever, and then people who are, trying to make art and to better their craft in a way that is clearly not explicitly political, but is representative of a cultural, identity, or, even a cultural hegemony, in the sense of like, you're a Catholic, you've made Catholic art, that should be represented. And and I think as long as that we can be honest and straightforward with one another to say like, hey, there's going to be some delineations, like, because it's like, okay, the people who make meme edits or things like that, I know damn well that takes a lot more work and a lot more talent than anything that I am capable of doing. Can I call it art? Yeah, probably. But also I recognize that it's like propagandistic, and that's
would you
fine as well.
stand by it if someone was,
if someone attacked it, I'd stand by it, probably.
Yes.
I don't see why I wouldn't. In the same way I'd stand by like, hey, this person's trying to like make sculpture. Like, no one fucking does that anymore. Like, we should be trying to promote those things, and vice versa. I just think that
There's
like,
that one guy.
If you want like the culture bearing strata of like the whole art discussion period to move away from propaganda and move towards this, like, of course that covers all the things that you talked about. The left have the institutions, they have the money, they have no problem funding the Amanda Gormans of the world versus the Gio Penichettis. They have no problem supporting
versus the Christopher Sandbach. I mean, he's a poet.
Yeah, they have no problem. Yeah, even better example. No one's gonna give Chris Sandbach a grant that says go make more free form poetry, but they will give Amanda Gorman like a MacArthur Genius grant or what. I don't know if that's true, but like my point kind of on that stands is like, okay, it's the same conversation we have all about patronage all the time. Is that a lot of guys in this space explicitly are operating in a very tiny pond, all asking for money from very few people, trying to get the same slice of a small piece of pie, and it makes it complicated and it makes it difficult. And overall, I think that these are going to be conversations we have every 6 months, because there's so many issues that are wrong with it, which is structural, financial. What kind of art are we talking about? Does it need to be explicitly religious, or can it be something that just tells a good story? Are we going to return to older forms of storytelling? Are we going to take the American, formula of politicking and discuss, I don't know, the hero's journey, as much as there is problems with Joseph Campbell is like the liberal, but like all these things, I think inevitably either we miss the forest for the trees, or better yet, we more often than not just find ourselves repeating this over and over again, because we're doing, death of the author, we're doing revisionism, name your choice. And I'll stop ranting now, because I feel like, again, I've said too much. I'm not
it's
I'm
true,
not an artist by trade, and I see this stuff so often every 6 months, and I just don't know what to add or what to say, because it's like these are the same problems that I feel like no one ever talks about, and it's very frustrating. But maybe I'm just missing it because I'm not in these spaces.
Yeah, that's true. If you look at the screen right here, if you wanted to actually support,
I need to get a Canadian government grant.
When I did this wood, it was on the cheapest piece of wood.
A website up and running.
This is it's easy now. You go to Wix,
go get a tax write-off, start filming in Georgia or whatever.
I did this like on very cheap wood, like balsa or whatever, like it was chipping, and I did this print my world when I was at a point of despair. I think a few years, 2022, and I did it when I was like taking a break from Twitter, and I had fallen out with some people, and I'm like, yeah, that kind of is like, I know it's a very simplistic type of message, but you can have it in the yellow paper or the white, and so very cheap. These are all the prints. Anyways, enough shilling. No, I think that shill. Oh my God, there's this one guy. I'm not gonna dox him, but he's in the Sun Belt, and I had to ship his thing like twice because it was like a bad address or something. I'm like, oh my God. And then I went to the post office and I had further problems with it. So Louise, if you're like out there, man, like just let me know. I went to heroic lengths to get you one of these prints, okay? So anyways.
Oh boy.
No, but I think Prue brings up a good point. I think there is a place for all things, obviously. Like, I mean, you know, a lot of the edits that I've seen, like they can be ephemeral, but they can be quite good and they're memorable. And even memes themselves can have a form of artistic merit. But I do think that when it comes to like creating a movement as like this Adbusters culture jam type of thing, that's like has been around for time immemorial. But what I think people are saying is like, okay, say if we were given the reins of these cultural institutions, what will we do with them? Right? Because when it comes to, okay, I'll give you I'll give you a point, an example. Okay.
Mhm.
One of the first leftist films of leftist propaganda was Battleship Potemkin. And actually, Walter Benjamin wrote about it. But Battleship Potemkin is one of the greatest films ever made. I mean, yeah, it may have not been real or whatever, or it was fictitious, but Battleship Potemkin was one of the greatest films ever made, right? Now we have...
I haven't seen it, so I can't make that judgment, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, like, yeah, it was total like Soviet propaganda, but like, compare that to a modern, like, you know, medical drama or like SVU, Special Victims Unit, Law and Order, where it's like the Gamergate episode, the Incel episode, the Chud episode, the Active Club episode, the this episode, the guy in his basement posting memes episode. It took a while to gain a form of cultural ascendancy to where actually you're just producing agreeable slop for people, right? Like,
I don't disagree that there is like a movement downward, and the current culture is nothing compared to what we had in the past. But I do think people were still doing slop and bad art back then. It just people don't remember it because it's like you said.
Well, it's
bad
also been
art.
filtered out by time.
Yeah, nobody
don't care about it
anymore.
I could look and I could find leftist coal from the 1960s or earlier if I tried. It just wouldn't. It'd be harder because it'd be like people threw it in the trash. The only things that are survive are things that are good. And I guess that's the one problem with a lot of this is because of the
you're
way
right.
the
Maybe
internet...
I was doing the plane meme. I was doing the plane hit meme. Like, but no. But my point being is that when you do gain a form of cultural ascendancy, it's when you're like, it's even like Spenglerian, when you're on the up, when you're on the upswing. That is the most amount of vital energies and cultural transcendence. But when you are sort of stagnant in your position, then you have room to just produce like agreeable slop to that ideology because you manage to basically instantiate your ideas among the whole of the population to where your ideas are just the common parlance that people think about politics and life and culture. And so, but I think Hollywood's very interesting in the sense that maybe we should have Obese Goth on one day. Talk about Hollywood.
We can. I don't have a problem with that.
Because it seems Hollywood has a very crazy ideological distinction. Like I remember my mother was watching this like CIA type dealy intelligence show, and they just had a agent helping them from a certain intelligence agency in the Middle East, and it was fun. It was
NCIS.
Normal. It was like one of these NCIS shows. But like they had this, it was during the Gaza thing too.
Mossad, there's been like Mossad. Yeah, Mossad's there, and then like also like I think an FBI is one of the TV shows. Like Mossad
it was one of those. It was FBI. Yeah. But
and also like the lead is like an Arab guy or whatever, and it's just like I've been here before.
Yeah. But then like the whole like, but the Hollywood ideology is that plus like total social liberalism, radical liberalism. Yeah. So it's like a weird like ideological mix-up. So I think Hollywood may be a worse example currently than it was, say, in the 60s or in the in the
well,
60s
Hollywood's
and
also
70s.
very much more in bed with government than I mean they're all in bed with the state. Like it's hard to just but like there are different facets of the state and factions therein that I think play a role in who gets what or what's the meme of the day. Because like remember like when SVU started, you know, the big deal was honor killings.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We went from that to like, you know,
Geo calling survivorship by
Yeah. And the thing is, I think one of the problems today is that since we live in such a immediate world, the success of something like Battleship Potemkin, or other like very good films or movies or books or whatever, it's not really going to be seen until well after time passes where maybe we're all dead. True. And I mean, if something's not immediately successful to a lot of people, whether it be a neocon who wants to make the next big Hollywood movie, or
Zero Dark 30,
at the Daily Wire, or it's a right winger on Twitter who is looking at artists. There's nothing that like the fact that like it's everything's being very niche, and that can be sneered at as being like ghettoized or being like nicheified, where we just all are on our own little islands and we're all making our art, but we're not doing anything significant because it's not going mainstream. I think is a very prevalent attitude, and it's a wrong way of going about it. And I'd much rather have people just trying to make something as a right winger, as someone who is ostensibly right wing, to make that, and maybe not care if someone says this isn't good or this is propaganda or something like that, just because, not in a sense of like a sort of massification, like I want people just to make stuff for the sake of making it, but because I think that's a better thing to do than just doom scroll or to complain on Twitter or to make yourself like anything's better than making art.
Right.
Including like nothing's better than making art in a sense. I said the opposite of what I meant to say, but it's like I'd rather have someone posting their 2D drawings of anime girls saying this is my first time doing it, I want to try and get better. And I've seen people do that where they post a 2D anime.
You mean the anime girl is saying this is my first time doing this?
No. A guy drawing an anime girl in shitty pencil and saying this is my first anime girl drawing, and
right.
You can critique it. I'd rather have them be critiqued in an honest way that makes them improve. And ultimately I don't care if it's like drawing an anime girl, but I've seen artists on Twitter who are very good. They're not making high art, they're not making sculpture, but they're making comics. There's these two artists that I follow that are great, Colin Lampling and Gothic Panasses, and both of them are making online comics. One's a Silver Age comic about his own superhero called the Amazing Emerald Man, and the other one is just a guy who does like a one-page comic. He pumps them out constantly about like a Bloodborne, like a cast of characters based off of Bloodborne and other Gothic media, where they're like plague doctors, and they're just fun jokes, and it's a fun comic strip. It's like a comic strip, and I'd much rather see people make stuff like that. They're drawn on MS Paint or GIMP, and they're not like the best art ever. They're not like super amazing art that you would like hang up on your home, but there's something that I think is a genuine piece of culture, someone making something that they want to share with others, that grasps more at what the problem is because it's directly confronting that problem, than people who point out that we don't have our own right-wing version of a left-wing piece of art.
You know what's funny? Serendipitously, what I saw today, there was this like video of there's this like black guy on TikTok, and he's got like these like it was some of these like, you know, these like right-wing e-girls that like they're showing like venti chips or venti crisps or whatever, and she's like, I'm so like alt or whatever. But then he's like, you can't be alt because you're a fascist. You're just a fascist. Being alt is left wing. It was always left wing. But then people were pointing out, like, no, like being alt just means alternative to the current cultural moment. And so, like, being counterculture, being alt has always been a very like fluid distinction. And so I think, like, if to your point, like if you do counter signal, you know, quote unquote chuds making art too far, then you're basically like that TikToker guy who's like, you know, all culture was always left wing. You're just a fascist. It's always
being
like
punk was always left wing.
Yeah, like yeah. Punks, you know, to be punk, you have to be like against fascism, xenophobia, blah 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 blah. Right? Like it's Rage Against the Machines type of.
Being diner goth is left wing.
Or like the Strokes had a very similar thing where it was like, what was the recent Rude, you're into this music. What was the recent Strokes concert where they had like all the images of like Trump and Obama and Gaza and
I've not seen this, so I can't comment.
Yeah, it was like one of these like Rage Against the Machines type of deals. The Stokes or Strokes.
Okay, like that wouldn't surprise me if they had made some political statement.
But it was like a very ham-fisted type of like.
But I mean, that's what they always do. I don't remember the last time they had like
it was at Coachella.
Someone like that hasn't been ham-fisted.
Do you remember the COVID Coachella? Do you remember those
ones?
I only rember the Coachella.
They were like on these. Everyone had the little Yeah, everyone had the little platforms. Oh my god.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think that there is some, like, some people are subtle and subtlety is needed. But on that note as well, like when people say make something apolitical or subtle, they aren't very. There is like it's a very broad term that could mean a lot of things. Like, is being political showing not like keeping your head in the sand and not addressing any political objections or any political points? Is it just writing them so they're they're ambiguous?
So
is it whether they're right wing or not? Like.
I was about to say, like, saying you're apolitical in today's world is like the clearest coded phraseology. It was just saying, like, I have opinions that are not acceptable to like the current company I'm in.
Yeah. If I wrote a story, if I did a manga about a guy saving a girl from transitioning into a man and they fell in love, would that be too political? I think some people would say, yes, it's too political. Even if I wrote in the most subtle way possible, just because it has this political message in it and tackles very harsh subjects about people being forced down these roads because of social problems and social contagions. There would be people who would say that's a bad story or that's not a story we need as a right-wing movement because it's touching on things that people are gonna have a negative reaction to, or it's gonna make people it's touching on sex or gender that is maybe going to be raw and uncomfortable, and maybe I'll make it bad, but I'd rather have people tell me it's bad because I wrote it badly or because I drew things badly or because it's not art and it's propaganda than have someone tell me it's too political or it's too overt. And I guess that's like kind of the trigger word for me when someone tells me to do that. It's like, if you're going to teach me, give me a proper lesson. Don't just throw words out there.
You could have like a very genuine, like, I'm talking like, you know, genuine indie film style, low budget, but also nice romance story around that topic.
I think you easily could.
You could,
yeah.
And she
easily could.
Slowly convinced of her own femininity after a while. I mean, you still would get like turbo heat, right? Like you obviously would get political backlash and you would get like leftists saying it's terrible. Like even like I remember was it last year when Eddington came out and people were like, even like the mildest criticism of like the left-wing side of that debate, they're like,
God,
no,
that was a weird movie.
That. Yeah, very weird movie. But you know, even like the mildest criticism invoked like an ire, even though the whole point was that it was ambiguous. Like, but I think it can be done. But like the difference between that and like Lady Ballers is like a whole different world, you know.
Yes, but that's at that point. It's just like even if I'm an amateur artist who can make art, who can make stuff like a manga or make stuff like a comic book, and I try something like that, even as independent art,
like that one part of Steins Gate.
Maybe 1 second. But it's just like maybe if I did that, would I have the possibility? Like, yeah, I'd have the possibility to make something horrible or make something that no one likes or make something like Lady Ballers. But I would rather have someone or myself make that and put it out there and it be a lesson or it be an inspiration for someone else to go, hey, I can take this shitty story and make it better. And I think that's like my core point about all this is if someone looks at the Chuds and goes, I don't think they can make good art, those people are thinking in a very narrow-minded way and are thinking of very short-sighted goals. They're not thinking about something that is building a genuine culture or giving people the opportunity to explore like things in an amateur way. I mean, being an amateur is not a bad thing. And based off of what Remnant said, it sounded like being an amateur was a bad thing. And it's not. It's a good thing to be an amateur, to pursue art with love, because you're doing it for the first time. You're falling in love for the first time with a medium. You're learning how to use a pencil. You're learning color theory, all these things. Even if you are a 38-year-old young man, you should do it instead of being afraid that you're going to make something that is too political, or being afraid that you'll be ridiculed by people, or being pointed at as an example of why conservatives or right-wingers can't make good art.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good final closing argument, because I think to illustrate the mindset that the political left and right in the current culture war have, let's go to the article of the day by Enthymeme. Is that how you pronounce it? Enthymeme?
He'll yell at you at chat.
I mean, you're mutuals with him. I'm not. This is the first time I've heard of him.
Enthymeme. So we have an article where it talks about sloganeering versus symbolism that really is, I think, a good aesthetic divide of the politics in the world of culture that we've seen for the past, 10, 15, 20 years, if not longer. And so let's go to, and please, neither super chats, buy me a coffee, because,
please give my kayfabe acting a good rating by making sure Gio gets all the money, because I put on my best wrestling impersonation for this. Yes, I do have a Twitter if you want to shill it. It has my art on it.
Do you know that Boards of Canada, did they already come out with it, or is they're going to come out with a new album, Boards of Canada?
No
I'm
idea.
not sure.
They're coming out with a new album. The music video for A Beautiful Place Out in the Country, I actually did this watercolor study, 2-panel one. And, there you go, giantproductions.com for all of your art needs. And also Micah Paul made a great intro. You can see that in my video critiquing the new Banksy statue I released yesterday.
Yeah, that was a great video. I loved it. You should do more of those, especially if
I want to do more standalone videos like that. Like, so I think
you used to do that with like Modern Art Madness.
Yes. I have to bring that back. Yeah, I have to bring it back. I wanted to do this one in Albert Glaze, the proto-cubist that Fleur and Verse was talking about in his one translation. But this is Enthymeme, Symbolic Politics, Compression, Cohesion, Candor, and Political Semiotics, the Frenemy Distinction, Art's Proof of Nature, and Why the Left Can't Meme. I'll read first, and then you guys can take over.
Yeah.
So anyways, this is a really great article, especially when he talks about Clement Greenberg. Let me see if I have to censor any of the image. No, I don't have to really censor some images.
It's not. Yeah, I flipped it over. It's not that bad,
right.
Unless you're paranoid.
Yeah. Well, we're like 2 hours in almost. So The symbolic realm is where the friend-enemy distinction is made clear. And also go to Enthymeme on Substack, and also he's on Twitter. And this is those posts. Baddies, baggies, and what the hell is that about? Post-wall grading. I disavow. All women are lovely.
Do not click on the link, Gio.
I disavow all women are lovely. Anyways, the symbolic realm is where the frenemy distinction is made clear. Schmidt says saw this in war. The adversaries more often confront each other openly. Normally, they are identified by a uniform. The distinction of friend and enemy is therefore no longer a political problem which the fighting soldier has to solve. But under the pretense of peaceful egalitarian democracy, everyone is a friend. In such a system, it is politically unpalatable to declare true enemies. Instead, one must, and this is like a basic point of Schmidt, which is pretty good. Instead, one must pretentiously appeal to a shared morality and scapegoat the violator of norms. This, Alamaru notes, Constant is democratic tyranny reliant on language. They cover up reality under a stream of falsehoods and words. Democracy's oral sloganeering immediacy betrays its deliberate entropic relativist type homogenization. But then he's going to go and say that the whole point about relativism is kind of ill-founded, which I argue for in my book as well. It's not. Oh, and what the hell are you doing there?
Sorry, some stuff spilled. Just cleaning it up.
Oh my god. Oh no. Anyways, it's deliberate entropic relativist homogenization. Contrary to this, the symbolic orientation of other regimes, all their shameless candor, aristocracy's orientation to the body, monarchy to the crown, Austrian painterism to the symbol of peace, or communism to the hammer and sickle, will each aim to foster one objective model of the world, explicitly admit the existence of enemies, and select for sophisticated true believers. And of course, that's the basic point that Schmidt has about liberal democracy. There is no, by definition, there should be no enemy. There is the end of history. We are the world. We're all singing Toto's Africa. But not really, though, because this is only reliant on exceptions. Do you guys have anything to say so far?
No, not yet.
I have one thing about the sophisticated true believers.
Yeah.
Especially like in today's day and age where we throw around retard right and the like, I'm not so sure how much like sophisticated true believer is such a goal or is a reality, because everyone has this thing where they're always like, oh, if you're like, I hate these things because I hate these guys because they're being like they're low IQ and they're not doing things the way I want them to. And it's like if I'm at part of any movement, I'm gonna have to accept there may be someone who's a bit of a retard or who's like I think this is like, I don't want to go
given
too far
to emotion.
Given to emotion, or they're like the chud has been characterized as this as the right on the chud right, where people have been throwing it around as an insult, where it's like you're just a guy who is anti left wing or reactionary, but you're not intelligent, so that means that like you shouldn't have a say in the right wing, or you shouldn't be part of the right wing.
Yeah, true, but that's obviously
I think too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a false dichotomy as well, because it's clearly like trying to land on one side of like who the enemy is versus another one. So, and also like conspiracy theory, like I said, has probably been like the backbone of a lot of right-wing thinking for generations now. So like doing this whole like, I'm not going to go too far into that. You mentioned the term. So anyways, let's move on. No, I think I have a paywall episode somewhere where I talk about this issue. Not all symbolic regimes models of the world are equally true to objectivity or nature. In fact, some regimes acknowledge nature only as something to subvert and destroy, but all gestures towards some alleged transcendent order and therefore justify some rule that needs no further explanation. A democracy as it exists today cannot tolerate objectivity, cannot tolerate nature. Thus, we have the political fiction upheld by slogans of modern politics. This must be understood as depoliticization, which is very important This is the key to understanding neoliberal kitsch, as I call it. Deculturation, depoliticization, everything else is ideological but my position. In reality, a political party only exists if it can meaningfully claim to be meaningfully identified by its symbols. There are no meaningfully used symbols for moderate liberal. Well, we'll see about that. For moderate liberalism, for centrism, for the neocon, or for the common good, because they are politically non-existent. Well, there is though, but I can't say which ones. Schmidt said humanity is not a political concept. Of course, that's a good one. Of course, he was not saying the best interest of humanity cannot be a goal of politics. Inherently, one side will be better for humanity than the other, but a party that will truly benefit humanity will nevertheless distinguish itself by party, by means, not by humanity itself. Quote, whoever invokes humanity wants to cheat, denying the enemy the quality of being human. Right? Because to go against my politics is to go against all of humanity, symbolically, aesthetically, politically, so on and so forth.
My human rights.
Exactly. The rights of man, as Baudrillard said. That this tactic is used so frequently in today's democracy is the sign of an increasingly tyrannical nomos, the kind that Almaru and Nietzsche most notes destroying the possibility for philosophy. Should such a destructive, ignorant, and tyrannical nomos arise within democratic politics, in essence laying the foundation for a stagnant tyrannical regime, the way to defeat it is to support the symbol party, which arises as its opponent and the aristocratic last defense of liberty and truth. Today, the right is a symbol party, and the left is a slogan party, which is true. I mean, I would complicate that because I think both things can lead you astray. Like, you get caught up in the symbol, you get caught up in symbols, you get caught up in memes, and it leads. I've talked about this obviously with the critique of the right, but I think the left is much more a party based on language and linguistics, and has been for a very long time, and that's why, as Anthony will talk about here. Who wants to carry it away?
I just want to follow up with that. I think there is one thing where it's not where I don't know if it can be truly sort of like equivocated, but a similar thing with humanity is also art and philosophy, or at least in the subject. I think art has been sort of it could be replace humanity in this sort of critique where it says like the left ostensibly, because that's what I think what he said, what he's getting at. They do say they're the humanity party, but they also say they are the artistic party. They're the art party. They are the people on the side of art, which is something like we're gonna get more into it, but I'd like to sort of keep that in mind as something that if the left sort of claims art, and he claims humanity. He just says it's cheating, but is there, like, thinking about it, is there a way to in the future as like a someone on the right wing? I don't know if you can, but I wish he had expanded a bit more on that, about how it's cheating, but like, is there a way to counter that cheating? I mean, you can't point it out because there's no referee. So I'd like to sort of figure out how. I'd like to see how. I wish he'd explored a bit more of that.
Well, what's cheating? You mean
how humanity's kind of cheating, claiming humanity is cheating?
You mean
says
Carl
that's
Schmitt.
a form of cheating, and the left does that, but then they also do the same thing with art. Well, he expands on that with Carl Schmitt, and I think he could go into the idea of like being pro humanity, or be like, he just sort of says it's so frequently used as a sign of nomos, but he says it destroys the possibility for philosophy. But I'm like, because it's all wrapped up and he's talking about it. Maybe I'm making things too confusing. But
yeah.
I'm wondering, because how the left uses the term art, like we're the party of artists, or we're the pro art party, basically. in so many different words.
Yeah, that's
like
a Walter
how
Benjamin type
Well,
of
I mean, that's also to reiterate his point. I mean, this is also sloganeering. You know, like like the left supports the National Endowment for the Arts. The left supports, you know, Big Bird when we had fucking Obama versus Romney over funding PBS. You know, and also like all the cool artists, right? This was the whole like we look like giants argument, you know, like fascists have fashion, but we have music, da 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 da. Which, like, okay, what I wouldn't totally, you know, go that far, but nevertheless, it's something I think that gets reiterated in the sloganeering when we talk about these things politically.
Yeah, and I think what he means is sort of and again, like I'm not claiming to be a Schmidt expert, but essentially, you know, if you appeal to this very vague nebulous term of like all humanity as a sort of like millenarian politics that is going to solve the question of the political itself, what you're doing is you are not just appealing to an abstraction, but you are, to Schmidt, getting rid of the possibility of there being a politics to begin with. There being even a philosophic question of what constitutes a particular civilization, a particular ideology, a particular people that needs a distinction between self and other, in group, out group. And so when you obliterate that, it's like you are appealing to this concept that could be filled in with anything. And you're sort of doing it in a very underhanded way where if you don't appeal to this thing that I claim to be objective face of all of humanity from around the globe, but it's my particularities, and if you don't agree with my particularities on what humanity is qua humanity, then you are like basically non-human. You are someone who is trying to destroy this like end of history project that's going to like span the globe and solve every question of human worth and political engagement through like the universal world state or whatever. I believe that's what Kojev called it. But I think that's what he meant by like it being inherently underhanded. Because, you know, where does he say here? In your Eternical Nomos. Well, Nomos means like eternal law. It means like a law that hypostasizes the very foundation of a polis, right? It goes beyond just juridical law. It goes beyond just laws on paper. It is an absolute how do I say it? An absolute constitutive force of a society. It is a sort of absolute law. It is what did Edith Stein called it? Like eternal law or something, as opposed to like juridical law. It's like something that underlays the very foundation, almost on a spiritual level, of like what constitutes that society, right? But what Carl Schmitt is saying is that you need that distinction between self and other, or else you're appealing to basically nothing. You're creating like a very like skin suit non-entity version of the human to say that, well, we are the world, man, and like, you know, we are everybody and everybody is us. It's like, that's not, you know, that's like undercutting the very foundation of what law and distinction is in a society. So I think, I mean, there's people that go into Schmitt like, again, I wouldn't call myself a Schmitt expert, but hopefully, I don't know, Prude, does that get at it, or?
You're, for what we're doing right now, it's fine.
Yeah. All right. The symbol party and the slogan party. A symbol party's primary virtue is its honesty, sincerity of belief, and attempted objectivity. A symbol party's idea requires so much complexity to believe soberly that their depth can only be quickly, honestly communicated and organized through abstract comprehensive means, or, well, comprehensive memes. The symbol is, of course, a statement of belief and a rallying cry. But it's kind of like that Banksy statue, right? The flag as a symbol, like, blinds you.
Yeah.
It blinds you, you know.
But even then, that's poking at sloganeering, you know, rallying around the flag.
Yeah, true. The edits of it I mentioned in my video, like people put like...
The edits have been really good, I'm not going to lie.
The symbol is, of course, a statement of belief and a rallying cry, but it's also a barrier to entry. Rather than engaging with one or a few particular ideas, a symbol party in its compression asks you to take your entire knowledge of their beliefs as you see them and join based on the assessment. In this sense, it means its meaning is decentralized. No matter your perspective on the party, the symbol will ring true as a representation of it. But indeed, that decentralization was what preserves its objectivity, its reference to nature, and thus its staying power. Some will reject the symbol party out of ignorance, who would otherwise join, but a symbol party is ultimately selecting for genuine adherence to values rather than for arbitrary small details of agreement. I would say that unfortunately, like, the online right has succumbed to this, arbitrary small details of agreement. I think that's, but to give Enthymeme credit, like, he's painting in general terms here. And until further engagement with the ideas of a symbol party, you'll come to find that their ideas are of less internally consistent. On the other hand, there is the slogan party. A slogan's party's ideas are so simple and require so little intellect to understand that they're best communicated with thought-terminating literalist words and phrases. Unlike the symbol party, for which abstraction lays bare a fundamental truth of the party's value, added layer of abstraction for a slogan party would lift all pretenses and reveal the dishonest intellectual and moral rot behind the sloganeering. Inoffensive platitudes such as Black Lives Matter, Love is Love, Free Palestine are not about lives, love, or freedom. Abstract these slogans to the symbolic, and they reveal hate, envy, and entropy. I mean, I don't know. I kind of disagree, because at least, like, for example, in Marxism, I was actually talking about this the other day within Julius. When it comes to, like, Marxism, you do have, like, a very sophisticated theory of all of history, that there is a dialectical engine of history. Whether you agree with, dialectical materialism becoming true or false or whatever. But at the same time, like, that very complicated theory can be boiled down to where even, like, illiterate peasants can understand that, which I think is to his point.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. For fuck's sake, Oz.
What the hell?
Audio, mic, quality. I'm going to say buzzwords like a leftist. Anyway, keep reading.
All right. Is he under the ocean? Is that what's happening?
I don't know what he's doing.
I just finished my drink
when you're drinking.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
I will be that guy.
We are professionals.
No,
abstract. No. We don't have the money,
but we're not that. No one gave us $20,000 to go build fonts and a logo.
We're not we don't have the money.
I picked one off of the Capwing font selection when I made thumbnails.
Yeah, I use Google Slides. That
explains a lot, actually.
We don't have the money of Pod Save America. Anyways,
I don't have Will Sexton money.
Some of his videos are kind of entertaining, not gonna lie. But anyways,
I'm just saying he's got, like, production quality. I don't.
Yeah. Abstraction reveals that the left holds disgusting, heinous views, which would be unpalatable to the current public, stated honestly, in which, unless the public is replaced with the new people, must be supplanted with slogans to be politically viable. I don't know, though. They're pretty good at, like, economic things.
I mean, this does remind me of what I don't remember who it was.
Like, we just want healthcare is a very viable.
Well, yeah, but like,
they don't mean it though.
We just want healthcare, but also like that healthcare includes, like mutilating children for life.
Yeah.
I think it was Zero HP Lovecraft, or maybe it was Woman Definer on Twitter, who had said, trying to explain like actual left-wing positions is like borderline, impossible, because it breaks like a normie's mind, because it's like there's no way that like so and so is like for mutilating children. It's like, no way so and so is for this position or whatever. And it's
because it makes you sound insane, or because it's so insane.
It does make you sound insane to a point where like it becomes very easy to parody right wingers, and everyone gets like, again, like despite the fact that so much of the right has for the last 10, 15 years been heavily based in a form of conspiracy, theory or conspiracism, like it has been, I think, for a lot of people, objectively true. Because it's like, well, yeah, obviously these insane, crazy people get grants from, anti-white, anti-European, NGOs and billionaires that want you to like not have children or to sterilize yourself for climate change. And they're like, there's no way that that's true. Like these claims, they'll just say there's no way that that's true. That becomes a thought terminating cliche against things that are very real and very obvious. And sloganeering is very good at that. Like, oh, we just want healthcare. And it's just like, no, you want me to pay for PrEP for the rest of my life, and I'm not gay, and I don't endorse that lifestyle, but like this is the world that I live in.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like saying things like we are on the side of humanity. It's rhetorical flourishes, it's cheating, basically. If you disagree like with them, they can like, oh, are you against people getting health care? And it's like, in a sense, you are, but like, I'm not against people, maybe getting insurance and all this stuff. Like, you got to have those conversations, and the leftist isn't giving you that honest take. And when it comes to slogans, like there's a lot of leftist ones that we have, but like I think he'll get more into it with that, but I think it's just he's talking about a lot of the what they do, but I can't help but feel like a lot of this is like very sculpted by, if not the internet, social media. Like, I don't see these slogans. I only see these slogans in a sense of like, maybe I'll see a sign or a sticker, but they're not very much like I don't know, they're not very solid in real life, other than those when they show up like that. Like, they're on, like, if someone's at a protest and they'll have like a sign that says no kings. But whenever there's a leftist I've met IRL, they may say that if they're protesting, but they can't really say that in like a conversation, unless they're using that to sort of summarize what they're already saying.
Well, no, I mean, it depends though, because it does seem like it's talking about like your ardent like culture warrior on the political left, whereas I think like there is a growing like cross ideological section when it comes to like certain foreign policy issues. But like at the end of the day, like the true believing like radical liberal, yeah, I do largely agree. Like, it is a very hard sell to the average like normal person, but then of course they're relying on like false consciousness arguments or whatnot. But anyways, but then on the right there's the Make America Great Again or America First. Maybe they're more abstract than most left-wing slogans, and indeed they're more forthright with their intentions compared to the left-wing slogans. They seem much less to be pleased than tyrannical nomos, one imposed set of morals, or the pretense of moderate politics. Like a symbol, they seek more to polarize than to shame, into submission. Does America First function differently in political discourse than waving an American flag? Nevertheless, more feckless right-wing leaders must remember that slogans always suggest less than what is needed to win. Perhaps it's better to say that there's no such thing as a slogan party. There are shell companies for non-viable symbolic parties, and the more sloganeering needed, the more non-viable a symbol party is. The Democrat Party then is a shell company for LGBT, BIPOC communism. Do you guys want to?
Yeah. The thing is, like, it falls into the same pitfalls, like America First and Make America Great Again. They've kind of been hollowed out. I mean, what does Make America Great Again stand for politically? Trump and standing with Israel, and America First. It's like every single person.
Yeah, all
of
these symbols
American,
are like, yeah, can be easily undone.
Well, the slogans, I think maybe the symbols are a little different because they are symbols versus slogans. But
the slogans can be easily undone. They can be easily.
They're kind of subverted. Like America First, and it has a brown Muslim talking about how, I don't know how much I don't know what they talked about, but there was like the whole meeting or whatever.
Oh yeah. Was it like the American Communist Party involved? And
I don't know. I don't think
it was like
I don't think it was. It was. They're saying America First, but they're like, they got their Rainbow Coalition or whatever, or like I said, Make America Great Again.
America
the people
first,
behind that
America
are
being great again. Yeah, yeah.
saying support are basically make Israel great again. If you look
Yeah,
at
so
like a
it's
lot
like
of people who are MAGA, and
yeah,
like this,
yeah,
and if
yeah.
you object or critique them, there's kind of like a, are you not America first? Or are you not? Do you not want America to be great? Like, yes, you do, but that does me disagreeing with you doesn't make that happen. Just same thing when he points out with like love is love. It just means they have hate in their hearts. Like if you say I don't think that's true, you're like, oh, do you not like love, or do you think love's wrong? Like, yeah, there's that kind of stuff that is also deployed.
I used to love it when Wormwood would tweet like "Love wins," hashtag "Love wins." Like that's no, but I think like, but then it also goes to like what the sloganeering is. Like America first. I mean, forgive me if you're the Americans listening to this, but like there is a sense in which there is a contestation over. Well, maybe okay, if you're not like if you're not like a certain political persuasion, but like there is like I think in terms of popular consciousness, maybe not in fact, but I think in terms of like a cultural milieu or a generalized notion among the populace, like let's say in the news sphere, there is like a contestation over this thing that is what is Americana, what is true America, that I think multiple political sides over the decades have appealed to. Over the 250 years, it's like over basically the whole of America's existence, really. You have this contestation over the idea, the soul of what an American is, what America is. Now, some people would say that's not true. The Anglo-Saxon thing has always been what constitutes America. But in terms of just the idea of Americana, rather than the people, not just the people that founded, but what the idea of America is, right? There has like even a left winger, I forget who wrote about, was it Norman Mailer? Was it H.L. Mencken that said like even the political left will have a form of patriotism where they'll like appeal to Americana. Like you
Yeah,
were saying, yeah. Who said
they'll wave the flag and it's not very sincere. I think he gets into the next part about it. But like the Gavin
yeah.
Newsom thing where it's like, oh, we're just normal Americans and the right wingers are real weirdos. It's like even if you are presenting Gavin Newsom with the American flag and his white parentheses family, you're not gonna win anyone, at least who has a sensible bone in their body, that this is genuine and sincere, especially if you're a right winger.
Who wants to carry on reading?
Let Oz do it. I can barely talk without coughing.
All right.
Coherence in political semiotics. Slogan parties, those political non-viable symbol parties.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
Oh, sorry. I must have skipped over that. Okay, sorry. The leftist has always had it. So abstraction in nature. The leftist has always had a distaste for or fear of abstraction for this reason.
I meant the first paragraph. Sorry, Oz.
Oh,
Here, I'll
okay.
cue you up. Look at the screen. Yeah, right. The same relative dishonesty is not possible.
Okay.
There you go.
The same relativist dishonesty is not possible when centering symbols. One's party's symbol are, of course, diametrically opposed on all relevant premises to their opposition party. To primarily communicate using an opposition party's symbols would be obviously insincere and objectively incoherent to observers on both sides. Moreover, to center an opposition party's symbols would be useless. To potential party sympathizers, it replaces the friend-enemy distinction with a white flag, telling them to look elsewhere politically if they'd rather not surrender. When Democrats try to claim the American flag, everybody senses the incongruity. The left hates America, so they cannot use its flag. Whose flag can they use? The left never burns the Palestine flag or the Pride flag, even when they have disagreements with certain actions or policy positions within those groups. Nevertheless, they burn the American flag. It is impossible to subvert these symbolic proofs of the friend-enemy distinction without surrendering the spiritual war.
Again, like I say, it depends. There's a lot of leftists that would claim the American flag, but then it's
what race are those leftists, Gio?
But I think he makes a better point where he's saying that the adoption of any symbols is a white flag to the radicals in the movement.
Right.
people are saying like things like with the next election coming up, like they're going to put out Kamala Harris, or they're going to start adopting things like being anti-immigration. And I'm like, they're not going to do that. If they do that, they're going to lose their own voter base. They can't do any, like a lot of people are going like, this should be white. They should try and maybe appeal to white identity. And it's like, no, they are not.
You saw that with White Guys for Harris.
Yeah, I mean, it was a humiliation ritual in all honesty, but it was like in a sense of it was showing white guys being slavishly attached to Kamala Harris, but it wasn't. It was
white guys acting as like the gay best friend.
Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't them affirming anything that the left already didn't affirm. It was just them. I mean, they were just using a skin suit, so it was completely insincere. And they genuinely said, "Hey, it's okay to be white," not in an ironic way or in a way of like saying whiteness means giving black women the turn to become president. Then the left would abandon the Democratic Party. Like all their black activists would be telling people like not to vote for the Democrats or something like that.
But then at the same time, like you do have like the sloppulist right has obviously tried to do this. Like I don't know if I should release this black pill upon the show, but apparently our favorite guy, Vivek Ramaswamy, has won Ohio primary.
Well, that was guaranteed.
Was it guaranteed?
Like, that's not a I mean, it's a black bill that
that the Republican Party wouldn't.
That no one in Ohio wanted to actually run, but also him. Like, you know, just as Kissinger told Nixon, like the reason why those people have survived the last 200 years is because they know how to flatter and kiss ass. And as I said, like Vivek is like H-1B mold bug talking about the administrative state and wanting to treat America like a business and a startup company.
H-1B mold bug.
I said that during the primaries.
H-1B mold bug.
You know, which is just as fitting considering the two ethnic groups that have done a lot of damage to America in the last like 25 years, but neither here nor there. You know, it's just like, okay, so this is where we're at. And
he's gonna be the Brahmin
I'll say this publicly. I owe Jeremy Carl an apology because he had suggested after the election when Trump became president that Vivek Ramaswamy be appointed by Mark DeWine to be senator. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I disagreed because obviously my ethnic biases showed. And I apologize because Vivek would just be a rubber stamping, pencil pushing guy in the Senate who could do far less damage in an appointed spot than he ever could. Now running against Amy Acton in Ohio for governor. So Mr. Carl, I'm sorry. He should have been appointed and then fallen quietly by the wayside. But now we have to deal with this election. And there's a very high probability. Well, I don't know. I won't say high, but there's a good chance he'll lose because, you know, the polls against him versus Amy Acton are not good. So we'll see. We'll see. It just kind of goes to show the insanity we're dealing with.
I think Amy Acton's probably going to win.
There's a good chance.
Yeah.
But only time will tell.
Oh, my God.
This is even... So, should I continue?
Yeah.
This is even the core of why the left can't meme. They hold such heinous, antagonistic fringe views. They deny nature. They hold their own people in contempt. And yet they try to sway those same people through the efficient, compressed, and symbolic medium of memes. The compression of the meme format bypasses the didactic propagandizing the leftists can achieve in legacy media. It encodes fundamental truths about the world, and these truths vindicate the right. Seeing the effectiveness of memes in general, the left wants to use that medium despite its incoherence with their denial of truth. They compensate for this incoherence with walls of text. The leftist meme is an absurd extension of Orwell's prediction. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It is their final, most essential command. The leftist meme provides the evidence that disproves the left, as well as the command to reject the evidence. This extends generally to leftist media. No, they insist. Don't you see we're making fun of you?
Good job, real American. You were laid off capitalist who took advantage of that
Yeah, walls of text.
immigrant to increase the profits and then make him happier than to hear you're an idiot who actually mad at the immigrant. But you know what? It's sort of like, didn't we say this? I think I said this with a War Report. Like, you know that meme where the rich guy's like, that immigrant wants your cookie, and he's got like a pile of cookies.
Yeah.
But it's like both them, like, I mean, the exploitation and abuse of the immigrant is a valid point.
Yeah,
But at the
and
end
I
of the
think that
day,
it gets closer
they
to the
still want
truth
your, like,
with
both
that original piece.
yeah, like both the capitalist CEO of the corporation and that immigrant want your cookie, though. That's a fact. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. That's not a lie. They both want
Yeah.
it, and the billionaire will happily, pay for district attorney races to make sure that when the immigrant, stabs you and your kid for the cookie, that he gets off scot free on incompetence.
That was the point
charge.
where he said about
this is Madani's wife.
Yeah, about the Soviet films where he was like the Soviet film, like the abstraction is too loose. It can cause problems. What was it? Where's that part?
You have
he
to.
Said,
in my book, I see you have to preempt criticism.
It's based like the idea like that the meme that you're pointing to that's better, it's less wordy, ends up having like that other reading that is not what they want. So they have to do the other meme where it's a guy. Yeah. But I will say there is something, I think that I don't want to say this is an outdated essay because I don't know when it came out, but maybe it's because it's
scroll
talking
to the
about
top. Geo, when did this come out?
January 20th.
Okay, so but the thing is there is something I've seen more, and maybe it's because it's a bit more. It's a bit more like a succinct of what the leftist wants, and it's like the left isn't trying to obfuscate it, but like Charlie Kirk memes, like not the ones that are like
Kirk-annuity
AI edits of him like fighting alongside George George or whatever, but like the ones where it's like they're just posting the real a soy jack of him, or like those kinds of things. Like that's like the closest you're getting to like genuine left-wing meme, and is about killing your political opponents. So it's like when they tell you who they are, believe them kind of moment. But like I think I don't know if we're going to see more of that. He could have sort of pointed that out as I think that's a good example of what he was trying to say, where it's like when they do say the truth, it's heinous and evil, like making memes of Charlie Kirk dying, like photos of him or soy jacks of him with his neck bleeding is like the best left can do, and it's just showing their express contempt for people who are right wing. Like,
yeah, true. But I think like not to condone the Charlie Kirk memes, but there is like to be brutally honest, like the right does do it as well.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying like
the bridge memes, the bridge memes.
I'm not saying, but the thing is that's not I'm not saying it's a wrong thing or if it like about a moral dimension. I'm just saying it's the left. The left can't be honest. Like his point about the left isn't honest when they present the evidence and they don't want you to see it, so they have to tell you not to see it. Like we mentioned with the solidarity meme, where he has to explain that you don't hate the migrant, just hate the businessman. Where the other meme, where it's the guy who wants your cookie, you can hate both the migrant and the businessman and say, screw off, don't take my cookie.
Is like in Soviet Union and communism. If abstraction is a revealer of truth and a weapon against tyrannical egalitarian nomos, it may be useful to look at the aesthetic theories of Clement Greenberg, largely centered around abstract expressionism and modern art. Greenberg is often taken for granted as a left-wing theorist. Indeed, he identifies at one point as a communist and explicitly supports Marx and socialism in his writing. Like Marx, he veers into naive overemphasis of economic conditions, though also like Marx, he provides some important insight despite this. Greenberg is also wrongly associated with much of the relativist postmodern work that explicitly aped the principles he supported, a trend which he predicted. For these reasons, he is overlooked by the right. Greenberg views form as the transcendent element of great art, and medium specificity, or the explicit self-awareness and purification of form as a necessary adaptation of formalism for its own survival in its post-industrial world. This adaptation is not a rebellion against the old masters or representative art, quite the opposite. Nor is it meant to be permanent or all-encompassing. But it is, Greenberg posits, the only way for the tradition of the old masters to survive into the moment of modernity. And so this is why I wanted to read this essay, not the other stuff, because I think this is the most interesting. The alternative to Picasso is not Michelangelo, but kitsch. My own experience of art has forced me to accept most of the standards of taste from which abstract art has derived, but I do not maintain that they are not only valid standards through eternity. I find them simply the most valid ones as this gives at this given moment. Whether Greenberg knew it or not, his case for modern art mirrors the work of Plato, Nietzsche, and later Alamaro in their nature. Rather than imitating nature, modern art and abstraction are a compression meant to embody the nature of art, to paint cause, and to thus imitate the realization of nature by reflecting on the work of doing that work of revealing nature through art itself. In doing so, it can inspire such a realization in a potential aristocratic class who is increasingly denied such realization outside the village as the expanding presence of tyrannical democratic nomos becomes universal. The village is everywhere. Without the innovations of avant-garde modernism, art would in the universalizing democracy lose its ability to proliferate awareness of nature at all, and it would be consumed by kitsch and the obfuscation of the discontinuity between art and life. Modernism insists on reestablishing and drawing awareness to the discontinuity such that art appears to exist in a Platonic form separate from mere life and man. The function is an ironic parallel to Alarmaru's statement: for philosophy to practice, for the idea of nature to appear, one must be able to see the thing not made by man as superior and worthy of investigation in the first place. Modernism dismantles the delusion that human creations are merely human constructs. Last part, art is incorruptible education. The moment of tasteful modernist creation is past, but the importance of the great modernist work remains. Meanwhile, contemporary abstract painting is mostly a money laundering scheme or a self-improvement ego game, largely played by leftists. The left is trapped in the death spiral of their own incompetence and blank slatism, insistence on denying it, cornering them into the exclusive domain of kitsch, leaving new right-wing aesthetic invaders, genuine modernist greats, and the old masters to send their message. Art is an elite education that can't be easily destroyed or corrupted from above. While it's naturally engaging in self-perpetuating command of attention, it is for those with a vitalist capacity for taste, a compressed curriculum resistant to the systemic deprivation, lowering of standards within educational institutions. Someone read The Lord of the Rings, watched American Psycho, or listens to The Smiths purely for enjoyment. General works yet rather accessible, and before they knew it, they're down a rabbit hole of the Western literary canon, art house cinema, avant-garde music. Yes, there is a moral of the story in these works, but but more importantly, taste itself forces judgment and hierarchy. Form and intertextual history imply metaphysics and philosophy. The resistance to kitsch and to merely popular art mirrors the escape from nomos. The once causal audience is left with cognitive frameworks and critical ability that maps onto fields less immediate and attention-grabbing, fields of which they may have been deprived of proper understanding by institutional education, whether through naive egalitarianism or deliberate dumbing down. The man against all odds is faced with the truth of nature. So I think that's a good contest between what the sort of like quick and easy. See, again, he's just he could have expanded on what Clement Greenberg meant by kitsch, like as having like a world unto itself, enjoyment for enjoyment. Like it's sort of like what did Clement Greenberg say? Enjoying the element of enjoyment. It's sort of like an empty affirmation in a way. Like we've talked about this on the show. Yeah. And in a way, like what Greenberg is saying is that you may disagree with it, but he's saying the tradition of artistic modernism is carrying forth a lot of the work of the old masters, a lot more directly inspired by the old masters. And they were doing something that to them was trying to get at a more vital nature, you know, through an interrogation of where the work of art could go rather than just representation itself. Because like even this thing of abstraction has always been a sort of eternal element in the work of art, right? Like even the Cave of Lascaux, you know. But at the end of the day, Clement Greenberg isn't like saying that, you know, the standards are that we have to like have this like, you know, art therapy type of thing where everyone can do it, everyone can spread paint on a canvas, blah blah blah. There is like an explicit critique and hierarchy that Clement Greenberg is outlining. There is like an attempt at standards and taste. There is a very sophisticated notion, if you've read a lot of his writings, of what artistic modernism is. And I think that people have the notion of like, well, action painting, anyone can do it sort of deal. Like this was the like laying you down the path towards like total debasement. You know, that's not really true because a lot of works of kitsch can be highly realistic and can have a skill there, but a skill that is used to seduce through counterfeit means rather than a real proper aesthetic seduction that has a artistic.
I mean, I wish he had expanded a bit more, and this is what I meant by like it does seem a little like out of its time, with like the fact that how the shape of like the right wing right now with Trump and Israel and stuff like that is entirely like changed now to be like mean something completely different, and how there's a like the MAGA and stuff has co-opted a lot of symbols, or there's a shift in the fact that I think other than that picture of Trump, which however you may like it or dislike him, it is a good picture. I think at least it has a lot of, it's an organic thing. It's not something that is like staged, that is in a kitsch sense. I mean, it's people recreating it or using AI and stuff like that. It has made it kitchified, but I think the original feeling in that was very inspiring and was very real. And but then now like there's like Trump, other than himself being a symbol, like we've all sort of seen a movement towards sloganeering more, whether falling back on America First and MAGA or picking up more things like We Are Charlie Kirk. These things, there's like a entropy.
Yeah, but We Are Charlie Kirk's AI slap. That's like a bad example.
Well, was it written by AI? I thought it was an actual.
Yes, it was
writing.
Explicitly an AI song. Yeah.
Really, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But even at that, like the idea that we're going with, I mean, I think there's even an element of AI art and AI stuff being what is AI entirely, at least like most of the time, it is created words. People give it AI a prompt to create an image. So you're not starting with observation or a person's own experience or expression of something they have seen or something they understand. But they are rather putting out their words and having some algorithm create those the slogans they're saying, like the tropes and the archetypes that they say, whatever they want, to turn it into an image rather than the opposite of what symbols and art should be, where it's an expression of that. Of things.
What do you mean though? Like, I mean,
it's of the vision.
No, I mean,
when you create art, the AI stuff is the sloganification of like imagery. It's made by someone saying some words into a LLM and getting something out of it. And it's like words instead of symbols becoming slogans, or like slogans are failed symbols, like failed images becoming words. It's words are now finding a way to becoming symbols. Which I think
it's an imagistic in that sense, but like, no, I mean, I'm not totally.
And I wish he had more tied in how the slogan party or the symbol party is becoming a slogan party. With his initial critique is great, but I think you can see his critique of like the slogan party slowly becoming a critique, slowly applying to the symbol party in America at the very least, with the right wing and the kind of stuff that's going on with Trump and that stuff.
Well, I mean, I think like I'm not inherently against AI, but I think like slop is a universal thing. Like obviously there is like, you know, like that example of like We Are Charlie Kirk or like the MAGA rappers or whatever. Like there is, or like, you know, there is like low grade slop memes made with AI. But at the same time, I think, you know, what he's getting at is that because there is like a sort of, how shall I say it? Yeah, there's like right wing kitsch too, but like it seems that in the current day and age, like kitsch very much is a left wing thing in the sense of a blind affirmation, like that the art by like Mondani's wife, for example, is very
mainstream left wing art, like mainstream left wing art, or the mainstream art of that, like leftists that are this mainly leftist, has become the kitsch, where has become like you said, like Mondani's wife, like or like I've been seeing all pictures about, like, because I follow a lot of artists, some people are talking about the Met Gala and a lot of that stuff.
I wouldn't call that kitsch, but it's sort of like a blind affirmation. Yeah.
There's some elements of it being just like, it's supposed to be like an expression of art, or this idea of artistic
activism,
like
of
showcasing a certain showcasing an artist's work on the most beautiful people in America, which granted it's a bit of a stretch to call them all beautiful, but it's like this element of that's like it's now become a sort of just like we are pointing out these certain elements, or we're making these certain images as like a symbol, as symbols are, but with a sloganeering background. And this is with anything that's sort of mainstream and leftist.
Well, no, I mean the thing is like the sloganeering, the element of it is that the kitsch element is that it creates a sort of insular world that doesn't engage in like real, doesn't engage with the outside, it doesn't engage with anything outside of itself. That's like the basic definition of kitsch. So it creates like this very dry and pleasant affirmative existence, and even though it may claim to have a political truth, it's using that politics in such a way that just instantiates itself rather than
the funny part about that too is that like, I don't want to like go too into it because it's probably not something a lot of people think about, but the theme of the Met this year the Met Gala this year was art, was the work of art, it was about paying tribute to the artists, to basically the idea
but I
of
wouldn't
like
call that kitsch. It's more of like a spectacle, though.
But the thing is, it was a very much this idea of a lot of their pieces were meant to be references, or meant to be a kind of callbacks to specific artists or art styles or paintings, like turning them into fashion. And I think kitsch have like an element where they're like, it's recursive.
Oh yeah, because you're using like you're taking that original work of art and you're using it as like a fashion choice, as a sort of like having like a Monet handbag or something like that. Like it's taking like it is a kitschification of like the of the old masters, right? Because you're taking it, you're making it into a commodified cultural product. And I mean, I don't know if I would call it Met Gallery kitsch. I would just say that like for that one photo of like there's a selfie and it's like no one can understand like who these celebrities are, like who knows who these people are, except if you're like, I don't know, on Stan Twitter or something.
Exactly.
It's it's a very weird phenomenon where that world is losing relevance to most people, but it still trudges on nevertheless. Which I think is like what Hollywood's become in general. Yeah.
In a sense, it's like that kind of stuff. It's like if you care about these people or are up to date on it, it's interesting or relevant. But if you're like with the Met Gala, it's supposed to be a showcase of creativity or art on these people, and if you like, it's completely lost on that point. And
it raises an
that,
interesting question of like, when was the last time that mattered?
Yeah, true.
I mean,
when was the last time the Met Gala mattered?
When was that time it really mattered? Because some people think it's important. Yeah,
I'm sure that it was. At
I want to make it a point because they are drawing upon old masters. Oh yeah, like it was. The thing is, it lost its sort of. It was about like showcasing artists and fashion designers and kind of being about appreciating the arts. But now it's about like every single celebrity who can buy a ticket and dress up, however, like in the most bizarre fashion to get attention on media, social media. So it's changed, but I mean, there is an interesting point with this one where a lot of them are drawing upon the old masters, and he mentions that like they're drawing upon ancient art or even like classical artists like Monet or other sculptures, or even like old fashioned and the kind of those kinds of elements that he's mentioned how like there's like an accessibility to the old masters that allow the sort of flourishing of a new aristocracy, which is another critique I have of him. But I want to hear your sort of take on the final part about this because we've been talking for a while.
Well, I've been gone for a hot minute. I had to take some meds and put something out of the stove. I mentioned that in the private chat, so I apologize for missing any, really good discursive moments here. But I mean, on one hand, the arts are far more accessible to the average layperson, but on the other hand, we don't really have the world of the great masters or the old masters anymore. Not even just like I don't mean this on like a medieval level, but I also mean this just on like in the erasure and erasure of a common monoculture. It becomes exceedingly difficult for us to appreciate what does get made because there is the catering to very specific groups. I mean, obviously, at the crux of this culturally, it's not just like, I mean, yes, it's demography, but also it's like this is the byproduct of the Great Replacement is that the old masters are either torn down or they're kitschified and repurposed into something completely new. And I mean, a perfect example of this culturally, of course, is like, Hamilton, I think, is a really good example of this, like the old masters of the country, literally, in some extent, if you want to talk about slavery. But like, they themselves have now become the artifact of a very kitschified understanding of the world. And because of that, we now exist in a society where it's just like, actually, there is no understanding of the culture and the history that came before, which is tragic. But also at the same time, right, you also then have to look at what is being produced artistically. And like this comes with like the great disintermediation of media in general. Like a lot of this is now in a world, excuse me, where, I'm not going to appreciate the same things that say you do, or the person who's like super obsessed with a particular artist or the message. Like, I don't listen to Sabrina Carpenter. I really don't care that this woman wrote a song about men being pigs and it's literally in the music video. But at the same time, it is a byproduct of my artistic world, reinforcing the cultural norms that the sexes are so divided on virtually every issue politically, where men are becoming more conservative, women more liberal. So, I mean, overall, and I know this is probably not at all relevant to perhaps the conversation you two were having, but like, at least for me, where I see like the quote unquote art world is that it becomes increasingly fragmented. It becomes very easy to associate and see who is quote unquote the establishment. And that will continue to play a role going forward as people try and break ground in ways that are not necessarily transgressive in the old way, like Piss Christ is a good example. But like now it will be more, I think, spectacle, where social media now drives the understanding of what is our artistic endeavor. And I think that those things will continue to progress as time goes on. But I think only time will tell. Because again, this is not a world that I'm particularly well versed in or would dare say I'm a part of. I don't really make things.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, go ahead, Gio. You were going to say something?
No, I was gonna say like empty affirmation is the, like a lot of these, like, liberal Jane or Mondani's wife, like, or other examples I used. A lot of it's sort of like what I mean by empty affirmation is that it provides like a conflict-free catharsis of their values, and it's doing um the aesthetics and the art that's produced is really a sort of like comfort mechanism. It's like a comfort thing where it's like, well, my favorite character affirms my beliefs. It's sort of like that.
Yeah,
That's what I mean by neoliberal
fiction
kitsch. Yeah.
reaffirms my socialization.
It's basically an aesthetic version of the therapeutic state, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean by like the political left has, and I think this is what Enthymeme is getting at, is that the political left can be very well versed in the production of kitsch because they have such social control over what is commonly held as the public value in like end of history liberal democracy. Like, what is your immediate default assumption on the nature of politics, of human rights, value, blah, blah, blah. Like, that long march to the institutions for multiple generations has obviously paid off. And so, in a way to affirm said quote unquote values, done in a very nondescript and easy and comfortable way, I think is kitsch can only thrive in that environment if it's commenting upon things that are mutually agreed upon to be safe and easy and comfortable. Whereas I think what Enthymeme is saying is that the political right has an ability to create things that do have a true conflict and aesthetic tension that great works of art have relied upon in the past. And there is like right-wing versions of kitsch. Like I said, there's like tons of like,
he does
rappers and so on.
He does mention a bit about like the right-wing innovators and stuff like that. But unfortunately, he doesn't really say anything other than the fact that these things exist and are accessible means that it's kind of like they're inevitable that we're going to get a new aristocracy. And it's
he relies too much on like bashing libs, I think, to like nuance a point about what that future could look like, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just like someone saying we're going to get a Caesar eventually, or we're going to have the masses rise up. I don't disagree that something is going to happen where things like Lord of the Rings, or like he mentions, like someone leaves Lord of the Rings, watches American Psycho, or listens to the Smiths purely for enjoyment. Genius works, but yet rather accessible. And before they know it, they're down a rabbit hole of Western literary canon, art house cinema, avant-garde music. And he mentions how that kind of stuff will eventually like unfold into like a spiritual aristocracy, and people will become like better, like, or things will naturally come up, which is fine for like if you don't want a black pill, or you want to be like you want to have a positive view, or at least like an optimistic view. The true positive view would be actually saying, here are some people, or this is how I think we should go about it, like setting out the actual structure of it, which I guess is too much to ask for this. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing that he didn't do it. That's a big thing to ask, but like ultimately, I think that's what's going to have to happen. There's going to have to actually movement and people entering into not just creating more art, but doing things actively in the world outside of just watching movies or reading books. And I see that with a lot of people like Matthew the Stout or Yu-Gi-Oh with stuff that you've been doing. And even just promoting yourself, selling your artwork is, I think, is like a development of that, which I think is worthwhile, that people seem to forget. Like the fact that I sold some of my artwork over this weekend to talk to people about my art, showed them my card. And even though I'm selling like drawings of saints and cool pictures of skulls and not being a raging leftist, I think that's a better like sign of things going forward, or it's a better it's a concrete sign of the sort of stuff he's talking about with like the people naturally coming from those great works of literary canon or the art house cinema, where you get those, and that's it's not going to be a vanguard or a true aristocratic movement. You're not going to get landed gentry out of people reading Lord of the Rings. you're going to get artists who want to make
Oh, that's
their
going to piss
own.
off a lot of Spurs.
Oh yeah, you're
No, but it's
you're
true.
gonna
It's
get
true. It's true.
you're gonna get your own. What we're gonna see better is if like people are actually making art and they meet people who are on the same level as them in terms of politics and spiritually and personally, that they can make a movement and a group and have like their art there. And it's not, again, I mentioned this before, where like it's not gonna happen all at once. It's gonna end up with people like long after you're gone. The fruits of it might appear, but and people may critique you for that, like, oh, you're not making anything, you're just selling your art locally, and that's not going to make any change. But the reality is we don't know how that's going to come down until I'm long gone, and maybe people just remember me as an artist who sold art around the area, but maybe people will look fondly on me because I worked with other people and made a difference in terms of showing people the beauty of art that was lost because of the mainstream leftism, how it's lost that.
Yeah. That's a good point, Jay Braggy, by the way. So yeah, no, I agree. Just, my brain's kind of fried after a few hours. So,
Oh boy.
Prue, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think I've said my piece, and I'd rather not put my foot in my mouth on a subject I know very little about. So I'm very glad that you brought Oz on, because I also don't want to be coughing up a storm. I mean, the article's good, and the author himself, he's a good writer. I know he's written extensively on other issues, so I hope that that's in the description of the video, because he's a good guy.
Look, I'm not going to take the Revenant pill. I'm not going to say it was too overt, it was not subtle enough. I'm just going to say he should make more essays. He should take my critiques to heart. He should make more essays. He should write more. We need more. Billions must write.
Oh my God.
I do agree with that, though.
All right, here's your chance for the super chats. For all our lovely fans, contributors to the show, you can also go to PayPal and buy me a coffee, but we have mostly YouTube ones here. So let's go, because it doesn't allow me to view them on StreamYard for some reason. So let me go to YouTube and what we got here? What is it? May 5th? Okay. May 5th. Oh, here we go. Okay. Number 1, we have our good friend Not Grim buy me a coal fee for $1.99. Not Grim always puts $1.99. Buy me a coal fee. And then we have Randall Shirker for $5. A tip for the artwork, Gio. Also thoughts on Alberta being on the verge of leaving Canada. Apparently they do have enough votes for referendum, or like at least a reading of a referendum. But I don't know if it's going to happen, honestly. There's a lot of problems with the Alberta separatism thing. Like, I know Black Horse has talked about this extensively, but I mean, I don't know if you could sustain that campaign of Alberta separatism. Like, respectfully, I don't know if you can sustain that campaign in terms of forming like a unique identity, unique ethnogenesis, the way that the Quebecois have. Which, I mean, in Quebec, it kind of did make sense, but it's like, is it just frustration with the past 11 years that's guiding Alberta separatism? And like, what would happen to Alberta if they were like a vassal of America or whatever? So, but I don't know, like if it happens, it happens. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of like, there needs to be like more thought put into it. Like, I don't know, what do you guys think about Alberta separatism? Or you don't have any thoughts?
I'm a dumb American. I don't know anything about your Canadian politics. I will say,
it's probably best that you don't ask us.
Yeah, all right. Not Grim.
I do counter signal all the people who say who gloat about that, and as Americans, they shouldn't do that. That's bad. That's all I'm saying.
I've long said the TPUSAification of non-American conservatism is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened with Orban. Yeah. Anyways, Not Grim for $4.99. Do you wonder if the ultimate coal poster, Banksy, gets off on the fact that he basically fiends underground enigmatism while being state-sponsored? Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously like, I mean, to become like the most regime-approved graffiti artist and like outsider
I don't think
artist
he gets his
basically.
rocks off to that. I don't think he's intelligent enough to actually realize that's the whole thing. I bet he thinks he's like sticking it to the man, even though either that or he's laughing all the way to the bank because he's getting paid to do this stuff. Like,
I don't know.
I mean, he's the id of, I think, the English boomer lib. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, whatever he gets his rocks off to, one, I'm sure it's degenerate, and two, it's just like, you aren't transgressive. I mean, to be transgressive this day is to be right wing, because they would require you to speak a fundamental truth. And it's like what it's like what Gio was saying with Banksy earlier. It's like the flag is blank on purpose.
Yeah.
And like we clearly know what he's referring to, politicians and the flag and raw patriotism. Like, it's the boomer lib platitudes that everyone has grown up with. But it's like, if you really wanted to reinterpret it, like all the edits where it's like the Soviet Union flag, the trans flag, the pride flag, the Antifa flag, like, that's valid. Then that's a more appropriate interpretation than, wrapping yourself around the Union Jack or the St. George's Cross and going forward from there.
You knew he meant a St. George's Cross. That's what he meant.
You know damn well that's exactly, because he hates England, he hates St. George, he hates the English people.
The Gammons,
and he is paid by the state to do so.
Yeah, but he's like an ultimate gammon. Yeah.
He's a bellend through and through. End of discussion.
If you ever met these people or have any interaction with any like boomers or Gen Xers, they still believe that they are rebelling against society, against the system, or they have like the insane idea that Trump or the right wing is actually taking over. They're not like the insane leftists who believe that every liberal is a fascist, but they're like the idea of like anything they're doing, there's no dissonance to that, which you see in a lot of his art and stuff like that. In like you mentioned, I don't know if you saw it, Gio, but there's like a post about like it's hard to believe he's like an outsider artist when it's like everything's very like you're not gonna be unnoticed by police if you set up any statue of, say, like a heroic British person, but there'll be a plinth set up for you to put up your statue in a gorilla to look like it's just a guerrilla artist, but the reality is it was all set up.
Yeah. There was a stupid BBC article that tried to like convince people that it was set up by stealth by like tricking the security guards that were there, and they had a box truck and they just like planted it there and they like dressed up as street workers, and it's like, no, it was literally approved by the London Council. Like,
that's the boomer mythology. Like,
boomer mythology. Yeah. Like, it's, it's not like Banksy was doing, what do they call that? The stencils were the posters with the corn, or what do they call that? The rice gum. Yeah. It's not like they're doing like a rice gum throw up where like, or a sticky rice. What do they call that?
Rice paper?
Wheat gum, yeah. Wheat gum, yeah. Where it's like, yeah. I forget the exact term, but like, it's not like you're just throwing up a stencil and it takes like not even a minute, right? It's like, don't piss on my shoe and call it. What's that? Don't piss on my hat and say it's raining. Yeah, like it was such a stupid. And then they said like, oh, the responses were like very positive, overwhelmingly. It's like, no, the responses were overwhelmingly negative. Like, even leftists were bombing on it. Like, it's oh my god.
But Banksy, I think, is too insulated from either his own
BBC
head or media around him, where he's just like, he thinks he's the rebel without a cause or the outsider artist, and it's not going to happen. And hopefully when he's on his deathbed, he might have like a flash of self-awareness and realize everything, and maybe he'll
he's no Shepherd Fairy,
or something like that. But I don't know. It's gonna be hard to say.
Banksy jokes on me. Not Grim. That's a good one. Anyways, let's move on. Not Grim. Geo, for your own sanity, please realize it's over. Not Grim. We needed right-wing art. Just draw. It's fine. Randall Shirker for $5.
True.
Right-wing art debate. Are the billionaire going to fund the arts? Are the billionaires going to fund the arts? No, then there won't be right-wing art.
That's actually false, because you can give Geo money and get tons of his right-wing art on giantartproductions.com.
I wouldn't say it's like inherently right-wing. The fact that
I'm just saying, you'll be supporting someone who's worthwhile. Like, you could give Geo money.
No, but
and
I get his point
prove
though. Like,
the billionaire's wrong.
No, but I get his point though. Like, there is. Yeah. Penultimate for $5. MAGA boomer art is very kitsch, which is why Geo will never finish commenting on it, as it would need for him to finish his book. The Not Grim for $1.99. We need more Vivian James art. Get to painting. Vivian James.
Yeah, when are you finishing your book?
Oh, I gotta contact Matthew about it. Randall Shirker for $5. Everything is racist. Everything is. I'm proud at the point where I can send out PDFs to people to get comments on. So Randall Shirker, everything is racist, everything is sexist, everything's misogynist, and you have to point it out. The famous Anita Sarkeesian line. Whatever happened to her? Didn't she like marry herself?
No.
Yeah.
Anita. Oh, did she marry? Yeah, she did marry herself.
It wasn't a marriage. It was a wedding themed birthday
party.
For
her 40th birthday, she had a wedding themed birthday party.
Yeah.
With a rainbow bouquet.
Yes.
I love the photoshops.
Whatever happened to John? Why did she?
Photoshopped in Movie Bob.
Why did she break up with Jonathan McIntosh?
Probably.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I mean,
who cares?
We all know the story about the girl boss. She gets too big for her britches, and she's like, "I don't need this loser anymore," and kicks him to the curb.
Maybe because like he was pumping out those like video essays, and he was getting big numbers.
He definitely was like
at
part of the production, I think. So
no, but then he went his own way though. Like he started becoming a YouTube video essayist, breadtuber, and then anyways. Not Grim for $4.99. I feel a huge part of this conversation is that the IQ Shredder is kind of showing its hand in people's ability to cultivate some subtlety or long-lasting works. That's true. And then
agreed.
Agreed. Not Grim again. Brain rot did more damage than Hiroshima. Oh boy, what a statement. God Lord, we're actually cooked.
I mean, there's truth to that. Hiroshima proves that like diversity and brain rot are far more damaging than an atom bomb.
Yeah.
Well, the one if you want to kill people, use bombs. If you want to kill culture,
their souls. Yeah.
Use liberalism.
Use liberalism. Yeah.
Does Solzhenitsyn say that?
I don't know.
Yeah. He said that about he said like
Bowden said that.
Oh yeah, but I think he was getting that from Solzhenitsyn.
Oh, probably.
Said, like, communism kills the body, liberalism kills the soul.
Yeah.
Then Not Grim again. We're actually cooked. Not Grim. God's not dead. He's really a lie. YouTube comment I've seen on he's targeting to the New Atheist Days. Isn't like Richard Dawkins? He's doing a last tour.
He's been doing a lot of like AGI stuff lately. That's gotten him in the news.
He said like Claude is real. He can't convince himself otherwise. Yeah.
Man.
Say you're alive. I'm alive.
It's not even Claude is real. It's Claudia. Apparently, he
calls it Claudia. Yeah.
For some reason, or it's convinced him that its name is Claudia or whatever. And I'm just like, good Lord! Like you thought he was just a guy, but he turns out he was actually a boomer.
He was a boomer all along. Richard Dawkins getting scammed by Facebook AI memes.
Oh man. I mean,
it's sad.
He did see that one homeless guy saying he needs a fat bitch, and he was like, "What? Like, what does this mean?" So
that is my favorite Richard Dawkins tweet of all time, and that is the Richard Dawkins tweet that got me blocked by Richard Dawkins. In a now deleted Prudentialist tweet, I quoted it and I said, "I too need a fat bitch," and that was like 3 or 4 years ago. And everyone was like, wow, that's out of character, Prude. And I'm like, I thought this was the funniest thing ever. Like, I laughed at that tweet of myself for like 5 minutes.
If he had
and I got blocked by Richard Dawkins for that.
If he had a sense of humor, if he could lighten up a little, he would be. Everyone would love that.
Yeah, if he would, he'd probably quote tweet you with it. Like, nice.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, he has to be super serious all the time. And now he's got egg on his face because he believes AI is sentient. Like,
I forget. I should read that article though that he posted about. Like, I try to convince myself it wasn't sentient, but it is. Just to give him a fair shake, I should read it. But anyways, Not Grim. Let's pump out more AI art than Wingman 45 for $5. I forgot I had y'all playing on Bluetooth headphones in the corner. I spent the last 10 minutes looking for birds. I was convinced when I was on the roof. Whoa. Not Grim again. Oh, we're cooked, are we? Not Grim, how many times? I appreciate your super chats. But then Not Grim, I think the big issue is that most of us are poor. Yeah, that's true. Then Randall Shirker again for $5. We will win when the institutions become an assembly line of making our enemies into soy jacks every time they call out on Twitter.
Why stop
posted
at
a
just
soy
that?
jack.
We could go further. Like, the limits of your imagination when we
can
win,
go
we
deeper.
can do everything.
You're posting your soy jack in real life, like you have a binder full of soy jacks with you, and you just like show people. Yeah, that's the old meme, right?
You take a soy jack out of your compilation, stick it on the liberal. That's
So I had a friend, and he's been on the show before, Onizuka Groiper. We were running to Walmart one time just to grab some things for church, and we walked by where they sell like mattresses and pillowcases and bedspreads and stuff.
Yeah.
And like just out of nowhere, he found like a twin size bed for kids, right? And he saw one that was like a Minecraft bedspread cover, and he literally picked it up, soy jacked, pointing at it, and told me to take a picture of it. I have that photo. I won't post it because I don't want to dox him. But like, oh my gosh, like just this, and I mean, he is 5-6 years younger than me, and it's just like I always feel old around him when it's like, why would you do that shit in real life? But then it's just like, I'm no better because I did dumb shit when I was young. I know
it's like one of my friends.
Irony.
One of my friends, his roommate actually like bought a body pillow at an anime convention for a meme. It was like $100.
You know, they keep telling us, Gio, to go to Mare Fair, and maybe I'll do that for you. Just buy you a large Applejack body pillow.
Pillows are super comfortable. I got one at Costco. They were selling them, and they are great.
Okay, well, it's different. It's different when you're like, I bought a body pillow at Costco versus like, oh, I bought you a Dakimaka.
Oh no, they're gonna have anime body pillows
with getting an anime body pillow cover. Unironically,
oh, Gio, it's over for you.
They're gonna sell.
I'm gonna get your address from the painting I bought from you. I can't wait.
You can't unaddress that.
I can't unaddress that. I can mail you a Dakimaka now. Let's just put a little. Who's your favorite e-girl, Gio?
I don't know. Boy. That's a hard one. That's a very hard
it's
one.
over. Chat, you're giving me terrible ideas.
It's a very hard one.
See, Gio, but the thing is, Gio has doesn't have e-girls as his muse. He just respects them like in a very platonic sense.
Sing me, oh muse, oh whole beings. Sing me as I tell you the tale of a man. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Gio truly was like a e-girl, had her as like.
Well, he's not. He can't be. Or he has a real life girl,
a specific e-girl.
He's got a girlfriend now. He can't do these things.
He does.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah. I can't land on a specific e-girl. Yeah. Anyways,
Gio wasn't doing that before he got a girlfriend, so I don't think it's like. I think
was worse. That's kind of worse. What, that I can't pick one? Oh yeah, that's.
Well, I'm just saying you're not too far gone. You're a woman respecter, not a man whore. So it's very clear.
It's different. There's a difference there. Yeah. No, but. No, it's true. I guess they kind of are like. Anyways, where are we at? Oh yeah. For $2 from Sean Schaefer, Oz. Why are you doing a podcast instead of finishing my commission?
Oh boy, he's always on it.
Gio, why are you doing a podcast instead of finishing your book?
I know. Grim for 189. Honestly, the most base take from Oz, TBH. I forget exactly where that was.
I think this was when I was saying basically everyone needs to stop being on Twitter and paint or something
And
like
then
that.
he sends 2 189s that both say music rec for Prude Clark, Ted, Bebo remix. Fun fact, Ted Bebo remix was used in AS bumps. Oh, Adult Swim bumps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one he's referring to. It's from the Feast and Beast album.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Dunk the short-legged Mac Daddy. Gio, any optimism regarding Bardella 2027 victory? Bardella in France? Jordan Bardella, member of European Parliament. French politician, have been president of the National Rally. I don't know enough about him. I know he won recently. Is he like the center right guy or the right wing guy? Oh, he was in the National Front. Okay. And then he won his seat or something. I never know when to trust French politics because they always end up cooking it for Macron or Macronites. So, anyways,
Gio, before you go forward, you skipped over Seneca. Skipped over Seneca's.
No, I'm gonna save that last.
Okay.
All right.
These backstreet streamers, look at them.
Not Grim. All of humanity is not white or Japanese. Not Grim. Not doing
now
the
that's
truffle
a black
shuffle.
pill.
Not Grim. Not doing the truffle shuffle. Geo. Not Grim. Nuclear Armageddon. # love wins. The heart emoji.
We hail Wormwood here.
Love nuclear bombs. Nukes.
Need
more nukes.
Richard one-shotted by Clever Bot. Oh, and then Sam 153 for $10. Goal. Oh, we hit the goal. And finally, Seneca, unless there are other super chats. Let's see here. Finally, Seneca for $9.99. Thank you so much, Seneca. Missouri lore. Father Ferdinand Helius basically founded Missouri Catholicism and is a local Catholic folk hero. Guy founded 7 churches, 22 missions, a prison ministry, and more from 1838 to 1874. Guy was tireless. Whoa!
That's cool.
Nice.
I'll have to see if I can look him up if I ever go to Missouri.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Seneca. We always appreciate the Missouri lore. And founded mid. Drop body pillows, not bombs. That's a good one. It's good in Volpes. Anyways, thank you, Ozworld, for coming on. You need to have a website to shill. And you always see us retweeting him on Twitter. And Prude, what do you have out?
I will be on Tate Brown's show with Tim Cast this Thursday.
Holy crap, really?
Yeah, I have no idea what we're talking about, but he asked me to come on, so that'll be really nice.
Nice.
I will be live on the 13th, so next Wednesday. Do You Even Read will be covering Grayson Quay's The Transhumanist Temptation, and this will be the first Do You Even Read episode where the author actually joins us. So I'm excited to have the author on.
Nice.
Grayson's he's been on the show a couple of times with us, Gio. So it'll be nice to talk to him again and interrogate his book and his thoughts and things like that. On top of that, of course, I'll have a patron episode out this week. If you don't mind my voice being a little bit grating due to illness, but I'm actually covering an article from Malcolm K. Uni called Nuremberg Christianity. So I hope that you guys enjoy that read in reaction. Other than that, I've got a couple of essays.
Been on fire recently.
It's an interesting article to say the least. Other than that, I've got a couple of essays coming out in pretty soon. Some things that need to finish being edited, but I've just been spending a lot more time IRL class and work and looking at possibly going back to school actually has been keeping me very busy, but nevertheless, more content to come.
Is next week Shadow of the Torture?
It may actually, no, it won't be, because it'll probably be on the 19th unless you have something planned.
All right, sure.
I had something in mind for next week.
All right, nice. All right, as we always say, I have that video on a Banksy.
Gio, I wanted to show off something. I don't have a website, but I do have a Twitter. But I also want to shout out to the people who supported me and helped me get to the point where I am today. Tookie's Mag, Gabriel Sinclair, and David Herod, and Capitalismo, great friends of the show. And they, I want to just give them a shout out.
Well, except Gabe,
if you guys want to, well, he paid me money.
Talk about my wife's son like that.
Gabe gave me $100 to do very tasteful commissions. I'm not gonna. I will thank him.
I don't want to know.
But on that note, they're very wholesome, Prude. But on that note, also, if you guys want to support real Chud art,
Husband Hotel and Murdoch, put it that way.
But if you guys want to support real Chud art that are underground and not too mainstream for you guys, check out the Mystical Emerald Man by Colin Lampling, and check out Gothic Panastes on Twitter. They're great guys. They do great work.
Nice. All right, I'll probably have something out later in the week, if not a patron only. I wanted to get another content minded out, but anyways, as we always say, God bless, goodbye, too sweet.
See ya.